Hi, India, can you hear me right now? I can't hear you, but that might just be because your mic's not like officially working. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Dope. Okay. Waiting on Sam to get in here, and then we will go live. Just in the next 2 or 3 minutes, we'll go live. So yeah, all is good. Thank you for being here. I wanted to start by having Sam talk to us a little bit, but if you're ready to go, India, we can go live. Ready to go? As ready as you're gonna be? Okay, now how do I do this? Hello and welcome to the Progressive Hub live stream of the DNC meeting this summer. They only do 2 meetings a year. Joining me right now is India Walton. How you doing, India?
Good morning, Ryan. I'm well, and you?
Doing pretty well. Early morning. So excited to watch the Democrats definitely get dark money out of politics.
So
And
such an exciting day.
yeah, they're going to come hard against the genocide in Gaza. It's going to be a whole new party starting today. Ken Martin is going to lead us to the future.
It sure will. I mean, now that they've gotten rid of that pesky David Hogg, surely they're ready to move forward with some really progressive policies.
Yeah, we'll see about that. So far, it's been pretty disappointing. Do you have much expectations? Like, seriously, do we have any? There's the two big resolutions we're looking at today, number 4 and number 18, getting dark money out of presidential primaries, at least, not right away, but in the presidential at least. That's good. And then the resolution on Gaza. Do you have any hope that we're going to see some good results today?
Um, I think that getting dark money out of presidential primaries is probably the one that's more likely to succeed. But I think that among members, that there's such a stranglehold still on, you know, the lobby and corporate money that I don't necessarily see the membership taking a strong stance on the Gaza resolution. And the reason why I say that is because I recall being back at the convention last year around this time. And inside the DNC, there was lots of balloons and confetti. And outside the DNC, where there were peaceful protesters, there were lots of cops and hostility. And the people inside that arena were supposed to be representing the wishes of the Democrats outside that arena, right? But rather than them platforming Palestinian members of the DNC, they were silenced, they were ignored, and they were even assaulted, right? When protesters stood up during the convention to express their displeasure, people began to hit them over the head with signs. So I witnessing that and seeing the reactions of people who were delegates, the way they interacted with protesters, the taunts and the disrespect and the lack of empathy and compassion. I don't and maybe I'm being a negative Nancy. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't see them moving in a direction that's going to bring any sort of agreement on a resolution to end the crisis in Gaza.
It's certainly not good for your mental health to assume the Democrats are going to do a good job, because you will be disappointed, and that's what I worry about here. When we were in Chicago, I think what struck me most, especially of the video clips that came out of the DNC members walking past the protesters was the era of elitism. That like, oh, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. You're hurting us. We're the real vanguard in charge here. We're the leaders. We know what we're talking about. We're the professionals. You guys are, immature. You guys are amateurs. You don't know what you're talking about. That, you always hear about elitism, and I've worked in some electoral situations where there's some elitism, but that was so visually striking to me that, a lot of times, even when you work on these like establishment Dem campaigns, you learn that a lot of the staff is just as frustrated. The staffers on a lot of these the young staffers especially, are frustrated and they want to be more progressive and they're not. But then to see the actual DNC members, oh, that's not them. So many of them were firmly supportive of the Biden style of kind of weak Biden style weakness, Kamala style weakness, Clinton style. It's all the same kind of pro-capital, anti-protest, anti-change thing. We have Sam joining us here in just a moment. Give him 1 minute to finish getting ready. Let me double check to make sure our DNC hasn't started. No, not yet. But that will be getting going soon. Yeah, so I'm going to share real quick let's see, where are we? Here we are. The proposed resolutions. Do we got those on screen now? You see those? So here's pretty much the rundown for the day. And a lot of these won't have much meat to them, I imagine. I'm going to bring in Sam Rosenthal, political director from Roots Action Now, and colleague at Progressive Hub. Sam, how you doing?
Hey, good morning. How's everyone doing?
We're doing good. It's my son's second day of school, so it was a morning, but we made it.
There you go.
Awesome.
Sam, what are your thoughts on today? Looking forward to any successes? What do you think the big things that we should be focusing on today are?
Yeah, I think the resolution committee fights will be big today. We're looking particularly at resolution 18 sort of versus resolution 3, 18 being the resolution on Gaza that was written by a young DNC member, Allison Minnerly. And this is sort of hews much closer to the progressive, the left's line on Gaza right now. It's calling for a ceasefire, but it also calls for an arms embargo. It calls for an end to military aid for Israel during the current genocide in Gaza, and calls for recognition of a Palestinian state. So this is a very powerful resolution. Versus resolution 3, which is sort of recycling the Biden-Harris campaign's platform on, their stance on the conflict in Gaza right now, which is basically to say we need a ceasefire, but we need the hostages returned, something that Israel doesn't seem particularly concerned with at this point, and is sort of language that, we've been seeing from the Democrats for 2 years at this point, without much change at all in the situation there. So I think that will be really interesting. This committee can kill resolutions, so these resolutions may not make it out of committee into a full vote, and I think that will be a real test of how nervous the sort of DNC leadership is about this resolution seeing a full vote, but also how committed this DNC and this new chair is to a more democratic DNC, which was something that Chair Ken Martin ran on coming into these elections. Things like live streaming all the DNC meetings is something that he's committed to as part of making this a more democratic process. But I think we're going to see now, this is where the rubber meets the road. Are they willing to let a contentious resolution like this that could potentially hurt fundraising for the Democrats, make for very complicated negotiation between the DNC and members running for re-election in Congress? Will they let that come to a full vote on the floor? Will they run the risk that something like this could pass the DNC? that will be interesting to watch today. My suspicion is that this won't make it out of the resolutions committee, but I hope not. I hope it goes to a full vote. So we'll see shortly.
Go ahead, India.
I could see the way they operate, them allowing 3 to pass for a full vote and
Sure.
then saying, well, we have 3, so we don't need 18.
Yeah, I think that's likely. I think that 3 is pretty non-controversial at this point. I think you have to be a pretty ardent right-wing Israel hawk to be opposed to the language in Resolution 3, and even then, I mean, this is many of the most hardcore Israel right or wrong supporters in Congress would agree with the basic tenets of 3, that it's bad to have a military conflict. The hostages should be freed from captivity, but it's very milquetoast language. It's hardly really clamoring for anything beyond the idea that broadly it's bad to have military conflict.
Right. Two things to clarify here. The big differences between 3 and 18 is really just a matter of like ending the war and ending the arms sales. Is that the big sticking point there?
Yeah, I think 3 is saying, we need a ceasefire. It doesn't really stipulate how you get there, and we need the hostages to be returned. And there's no mention of political prisoners held in Israel, Palestinian political prisoners held in Israel. There's really not, doesn't go into depth about the scale of catastrophe, the scale of civilian deaths that we've seen in Gaza. It's just basically, a line that you wouldn't have been out of place in sort of like November 2023.
So they're formalizing the stance that has been the safest for everyone to have for 2 years.
Yeah, and this was what, Joe Biden was running on as part of his reelection, what Kamala Harris ran on as part of her election campaign. And I think we saw this conflict play out at last year's DNC, where there was a discussion about whether or not to let a young Palestinian delegate speak on the floor, and the party ultimately blocked that delegate from speaking. So it's really a question for the Democrats of, are they going to get involved in this conflict in a way that really addresses what's happening materially on the ground there? Are they going to acknowledge that, as the IDF has acknowledged themselves or internally acknowledged, that over 80% of the deaths in this conflict have been civilian deaths? That's the IDF's own count. So we can imagine it's probably higher than that. But, if you just think, even if that number is accurate, that's a staggering imbalance. It puts it at, it's, I think, the second or third highest rate of civilian deaths in any conflict in this century. And when you think about people being starved, people being indiscriminately bombed, that's the reality of the situation. And the question now is the Democratic Party going to acknowledge that we're talking about wanton slaughter, we're talking about genocide, we're talking about a real annihilation of a people? Or are they going to say, as soon as Hamas returns the hostages, then we're good to go, and we support that, and we support an end to hostilities? It's just not an engagement with reality at this point. And so I think it's critical for the party to decide, do we want to align ourselves with reality and with popular opinion, by the way, and take a harder line on Israel? Or do we want to just keep offering these platitudes like Resolution 3, like the presidential platforms we saw, and just kind of be passengers in this process, not take an active role, and just sort of drift along with the tide, and then we'll see where we are in 2028. And hopefully, I think the party's hoping that they don't really have to deal with this in any way, that this conflict will be over in some measure by the time they're back in control of either Congress or the presidency.
Well, I think that brings up an important point. I think India might have something to say about this. Is the Democrats they could have. They chose not to say much while Biden was president and while Kamala was running for president about Gaza. Suddenly, Trump is president, and now we see a lot more. It's not great, but we see a lot more voices against it. Do we think if Democrats get power, if they do win Congress, they do win the Senate, and this conflict's not over, that they will actually do anything about it? Or is it, like I always go to the example of Medicare for all in California? Well, when the Democrats have power, suddenly they're not so interested in that, but as soon as they don't, they campaign on it. So is this a situation where even if we win today, it's all kind of null and void, because as soon as Democrats do win power, they'll back off of it like they kind of do so often or did during Biden?
Well, the resolution to keep dark money out of presidential primaries is like one step. But if APAC is indeed dark money, then we need to get them out of congressional primaries as well. Like it needs to be across the board. And my concern is that, we're thinking about Democrats regaining control in 26 or 28. But what's happening right now is that IDF trained militarized police officers have been federalized in Washington, D.C., and there's about to be a siege and an occupation of majority Democrat run mid to large size cities in the United States. So I think that we're like, while it had previously been about foreign policy, now this is beginning to trickle into domestic policy, and we're seeing a presidency that is using a lot of the tactics that are being used in Gaza on United States citizens and residents of the United States. So I think that there's a cause for concern, not about what happens in 26 or in 28 in elections, but how Democrats are going to respond to the National Guard being called into cities today.
Right. And the threat to Chicago is a real threat, I think. I think there's the difference in Chicago is I don't think it'll go as smooth. I have real concerns, and I live a couple hours from Chicago. People aren't going to accept it like the mayor of DC did so kind of weakly. She didn't really do much. Do you expect the same from Chicago, Sam or India?
I'll just say, I think I'm here on the ground in DC, first of all, and I think India is completely right. The Democratic leadership has not prepared themselves to fight the battle that it seems like they're going to need to fight. And I think we've seen the sort of the foreshadowing for this, I guess, for a while now, where I always joke with some other friends who are in progressive politics, but like, when the Democrats need to fight Republicans, they seem meek, they seem like they're out of sorts, they don't know what they're doing. And then when they're fighting the left, it's like, they're this powerhouse party. They go knives out. They have all these tactics that they're pulling out of their bag.
They can organize their money so well against
Right.
other Democrats, and against Republicans, they can't organize anything.
Right. And now we're seeing here the effects of this, exactly as India was saying, where we have, local Democratic leadership. I mean, DC is it's basically a single party city. But our mayor, flip-flopped, she waffled, she was oppositional, she was defiant, then she was conciliatory, she was with Trump, she wanted to work together. And what we're seeing on the ground here, I mean, the resistance that I see is citizen run. It's people in signal chats, it's people who are doing cop watch patrols, going, street to street to warn their neighbors. There is no organized resistance from any kind of official Democratic Party organ, which is they're the opposition party. This is a president who's running roughshod over civil rights in a city that is the most Democratic city in the entire country by registration. And they're doing nothing. There's no official party presence here because they are totally ill-equipped to deal with a crisis like this. And so I hope that if Donald Trump wants to export this particular brand of fascism to other cities, which, have some tools to fight against this that we don't in DC, because we're basically a colony city of the federal government here. But in Chicago, which is inside a state with a Democratic governor, with a Democratic mayor, I hope that there's more of a fight there. I hope that there's more preparation, that there's more of a readiness to push back against what is completely an assault on the civil rights of people that Donald Trump doesn't like. It's just about him having a platform to exercise his racism, his tribalism, and to say, these aren't my people, and I'm happy to let the military loose on them, whether they're American citizens or not American citizens.
Right. And I think one pattern or result we've seen from the previous 20 or 30 years is that the Democrats have become such a pro-militarism party, pumping as much money as the Republicans into the military, supporting as many or more wars than the Republicans. It goes back and fluctuates a bit. The idea that American politicians, a general's never done a bad job in my lifetime in the U.S. We've never won a war, but all the military leaders are perfect and are above any type of criticism at all. So my worry is that the party has become so pro-militaristic that they put themselves in a corner when now fighting back against, if the Department of Defense or some general comes out and says, no, actually, this is a good idea, I don't know that I trust the Democrats to push back. It's a weird position to be in where clearly Trump is doing wrong, but the Democrats, I don't know, have said anything even subtly anti-militaristic in my entire life. So that's just another concern I have there. Any thoughts on that? Is there that, will they just defer to militarists and the experts on TV?
Yeah, I went to a place recently called the Chautauqua Institute, close to Buffalo, and there was a conversation about, like, moving us forward past Trump, and it was supposed to be like a two sides sort of argument, right? There was a Democratic strategist and then a Trump supporter, but they were both saying the same thing about war and about militarism and about the future of arms and using technology and this, sort of whatever they call it, the Golden Dome theory and all of these things. And it was just so strange to me that, like, that was the one thing that they could agree on. And who are the people besides the progressive left who are going to speak out against militarism, right? And I think that this all speaks to the hyper-capitalist state of this nation, especially in our politics, because what does the economy do? Not the economy, that's wrong. What do rich people do? Without the military industrial complex, without the prison industrial complex, without all of these structures in place that we are using the excuse of peace and freedom when it's really theft and exploitation of poor and working people, whether it's here at home or abroad, where they're trying to sneak in and overthrow the Venezuelan government to tap into their oil reserves. So like, again, it's a difficult place to be in, being a lifelong Democrat and believing in democracy. But now to be at my age and have experienced and seen the things that I have, that the Democrats, for the most part, are just a different side of the same coin as the Republicans.
And I think a lot of that then comes down to a conversation about the resolution, was it Resolution 4 on integrity in the financing of our presidential primary elections. So long as our candidates are funded by big tech and big corporations and surveillance organization, all these different things, the chance that they actually stand up to those things is as low as it'll ever be, right? It's not going to change so long as they're funded the same way. And yeah, the Golden Dome, it's interesting, even AOC voted to fund the Golden Dome, kind of, or whatever, in Israel, kind of ignoring that is what allows Israel to commit genocide, right? So yeah, it's tough. It is really tough. Let's check to see if the DNC is live yet. Let's see what we got. They should be kicking off any minute now. It is 9:29. I believe the resolution committees start at 9:30. Is that right, Sam?
Yes. Yeah, it's 8:30 local time, 9:30 here on the East Coast.
So they should be getting going anytime soon. And process-wise, do we know how this is going to look, or are we just kind of, beginning shortly? Do we know what this process looks like, Sam? How long these meetings are? How long we're going to be streaming today? Do we know much of anything?
I think this meeting is scheduled for 2 hours, I think. I'm actually not sure. It's hard to get an agenda that's specific to the minute, and also that's specific to the committee here. So I think this will be largely at the chair's discretion. I haven't seen an agenda specifically for the resolutions committee meeting. But I think, I would expect them to move stepwise through these resolutions, but I just came from a large sort of plenary convening of a socialist organization where there was a lot of parliamentary maneuvering. So I wouldn't expect exactly the same level from the DNC, but we'll see what happens. I'm not sure if there will be any attempts to move things up or down in the agenda. I would expect it to be more orderly than the meeting I just came from, but you never know.
Do you get a sense that a lot of these resolutions are predetermined? They're already decided on, the votes are already there, and there's not going to be debate?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to understand the context of these meetings, I think. DNC meetings, these convenings, for the most part, are not supposed to be really deliberative meetings. They're supposed to be meetings where the party kind of cheerleads, it reasserts its values, whatever those are, and then it moves into a sort of discussion of operations, because the DNC at fundament, it's a fundraising operation. So having different programs reaching out to different parts of the country, having a 50-state strategy, as they always say they do, is important, but ultimately they're going to go where the money is, and especially right now where they're in an acute financial crisis, which is really important background. We shouldn't lose sight of that. The Democrats are in a fundraising tailspin. The gulf between the DNC and the RNC's money on hand right now is the largest it's been in the last 3 decades, I believe. So there's intense pressure on Ken Martin to get the fundraising numbers up. I saw a report this week that some DNC members had privately considered calling a vote of no confidence at this meeting against Ken Martin. I don't think that's going to happen, but there was consideration of that. So that's really important as people are plugging into this and going into watching some of these clips. It's really important to keep in mind that the intense anxiety around this meeting is going to be about how poor the fundraising numbers are. So we're focused on content, we're focused on these resolutions, and these are important to us. They're important to kind of this battle for the soul of the party. But for people at the top tier of the DNC, they're only going to be thinking about money. This is all about fundraising. And the character of these resolutions is always going to be measured with that in mind. So when we talk about things that are going to very likely enrage the lobbies that India was just discussing, the APACs, the DMFIs, who have already shown that they have a lot of cash on hand that they will like to spend against progressives in primaries, who they find to be insufficiently pro-Israel, right or wrong. The DNC leadership is going to look at how much cash these folks are spending in primaries, and they're going to think, that's a lot of money on hand. Do we really want to alienate this particular constituency who are single issue? Whatever the ads say that they run against progressives, that they run against Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush, these are single issue lobbies, and that single issue is unconditional support for Israel and whatever they do. So if you have a resolution that's very critical of Israel, I think that there's going to be a big problem, and that's where the anxiety that Ken Martin and others are feeling about Resolution 18 really comes from. It's primarily a fundraising concern, would be my guess.
That's super interesting. So getting dark money out of politics, while it's great and it leads to a more democratic process, it gives the Democratic candidate less time and money to then fuel their own rise to then win the general. That would be Ken Martin's argument, or not necessarily his, but a DNC member's argument against like the dark money resolution. Because with money being so important, getting rid of more of it, they'll say, is not a good idea. Famously, oh God, who was it? Who said, oh, the Republicans take money. What do you want us to do? Just not take any and lose? It's like, well, there's other ways. And one of the other ways, there's this great article from a week or two ago. It's a 3-part series from Corbin Trent. I think I shared it with you, Sam. And he talks about how the progressive wing of the Democrats, Bernie, AOC, Liz Warren, they had a fundraising machine that brought in $300 million in a cycle, which is more than APAC, right? Significantly. So the idea of there is money, but it's not that well organized, and it's not the DNC's money, because the DNC and the progressive wing of the party are so disconnected. So if you could connect that in some way, if the DNC could actually be taken over, run by, led by the progressive wing, there is plenty of money. That's not dark money. We could get dark money out of politics and still have more than enough to defeat AIPAC, the NRA, and the Republicans in the MAGA world. So something I've been thinking about a lot.
It's so true. And you know what I know of progressives in general is that we spend our money based on our values. We are more likely to shop at cooperatives. We are more likely to shop at minority and women-owned businesses, right? Like we put our money where our hearts and minds are. And if we see a party who is capitulating to the right, who is not representing our values, who's not even remotely fighting for us, then we're finding other ways to use our resources, and that's translated into lots of mutual aid and on the ground support and grassroots movement building, because we cannot depend on the leadership of the DNC or the Democratic Party to represent our values.
Right. We're having to put Band-Aids all over our communities because our leaders aren't fixing the system that causes the injuries, you know?
Yeah. I think the underside of that too, India, what you're saying is like there's money for progressives because we're still enthusiastic about our politics. I think what you're seeing right now is no one's giving money to the Democratic Party because there's a real lack of enthusiasm for what the party is doing now. If you kind of break off the segment of progressives who are fired up about electoral politics, and if we're just giving to our own candidates, and then whatever other groups of people who have become disenchanted with the party, maybe even who drifted over to vote for Trump in the last election, it's really a small segment of folks you have left, and I don't think they're very excited about what the party's doing right now. So their wallets are not open, they're not breaking out their checkbooks because they're not sure what the party stands for. I'm with them. I'm not sure what the party stands for right now.
No idea.
And they're not sure where that money's going to go. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the question when you're donating to a political organization, a candidate, right? You want to have that feeling that you're going to give someone, $27 and they're going to put that money towards some end that you want, some policy end, some political end you want to see realized in your life. And I don't think the Democratic Party is transmitting that idea to anyone right now.
Well, and if you compare it to the GOP, and for at least my whole life, probably much longer than that, the GOP's promise to their donors has been very simple and consistent. We're going to lower your taxes. You will be richer. If you give us $1 million, you'll save $5 on taxes. It's a very simple sell. We will make you richer. They don't even say they're going to help people. They'll say people will help themselves if we don't take their money, right? So it's such a simple sell to people, where the Democrats, there's no foundation, there's no there, right? As soon as you give up the moral high ground, the just creating a better, safer, more prosperous community, and you start taking donations from corporations and organizations that have different ideas, then there's no credibility there. And yeah, have you ever donated to the DNC? I have not. They've asked me, they send me 4,000 texts a year, but like, not a chance I would do that, because the money is going to disappear. It's going to go to Oprah. It's going to, like what Kamala did, these insane spends that were
going to go to pay off Kamala Harris's campaign bills, which we learned yesterday, apparently, that the DNC floated the Harris campaign a huge loan to pay off their unpaid vendor bills that they're still paying back. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that happens. And so you're a small donor, you give what little excess income you have to Kamala Harris's campaign, to the DNC. And instead of putting that towards electing anyone, they're using it to pay back a candidate who didn't win, who arguably didn't run a very good campaign, so that they can pay off their vendors, which are all part of the Democratic Party ecosystem anyway. I mean, that's what they're really doing, is just recycling money through their ecosystem.
Right. So many of these allies and friends and influence, Beyonce, who cares who it is, whatever. They could just say, never mind, you're good, we did it for free. But none of them are. I've not heard of any debt being canceled because they're like, oh, we did this for the right reason. Everybody is going to get paid. And campaigns screw people over kind of all the time when they cease to exist and have a lot of money owed. It's oftentimes difficult to collect that money. Lots of campaigns continue sending fundraising emails for years after failed Senate runs, trying to make up the money that they borrowed to get there. So yeah, throwing these money in holes. You're never going to get $20 from me to the DNC if I know it's going into a hole that someone else dug a year or two ago.
And being at that convention last year and just experiencing the excess. I mean, like it was excessive.
Yeah.
I mean, like the VIP lounges, it was more like a victory party than it was a convention to choose the nominee, right? We know the nominee was already chosen, but they didn't even front like they were doing anything besides showing off.
Right.
But the power of that, India, because we were all there together, it was cool. It was nice to be around cool events with lots of people and free drinks. I don't even drink, but I was like, oh, this is fancy. Everybody felt so. Don Lemon was at a party. We saw Don Lemon. We were like, what the hell? Like, it's weird. But you put people in these situations and you surround them by power and cool event planning and organization, and suddenly, maybe the DNC is not so bad. I think that's what we saw a lot of. And just getting a taste of that fancy world, there's an element of coolness to it. There's an element of like, oh, I get to dress nice and go to this fancy, like, oh, I'm successful. No, we're not. We're losing. We're losing all the time, and it's all fake.
It was cool. And the whole time I was thinking, they have totally missed the plot.
Exactly. They made us feel good, and the voters around the country are left out to dry. It's like
they pushed a dance floor over like a dumpster fire or something, and we were all just on top of it. I mean, yeah.
That's a really good analogy. Dance floor over a dumpster fire. That is the Democratic Party's events.
But I think that's just representative of the way the party is right now. That there's a lot of show and no go, really. I mean, there's, as I was saying earlier, like there was this blocking of a discussion of kind of the more controversial aspects of what could have been more controversial aspects of the platform, just a real reiteration of these platitudes from a party that I just didn't see an inclination to win when we were at the DNC. I didn't see it from them in the run up to the campaign. I mean, we've talked this to death, but the Joe Biden's just utter handicapping of the Harris campaign, whatever you think about the campaign, Harris's campaign outside of the Joe Biden decision, he set her up for failure in innumerable ways. And, that was going to be hard. Even the most stellar political talent, which I don't think Kamala Harris is, but even the most stellar political talent would have had a hard time recovering from that. And I just think that this is really representative of the party right now, that instead of having a convention that was like, okay, what are we doing? We really have to grind it out. We're behind the 8 ball. It was just, a big party, democracy in America, freedom in America, etc., and no acknowledgement of the incredibly difficult circumstances the party was in and the incredibly high stakes. And now we're seeing the results of that. I mean, the stakes really were very high. I know that on the left, there's a tendency to say the parties are the same, and I buy part of that. And, in some dimensions they are, but what we're getting right now from Donald Trump's second term is leagues away from what we would have gotten from a Kamala Harris presidency, especially on the domestic front. And, we're experiencing it right now on the ground in DC, and it's really horrific. So that was, and the Democratic Party set us up for this, for where we are right now in its total mishandling of the nominating process last year.
Yeah. Do you think, go ahead, India.
Oh, I was just saying, we tried to tell them.
Yeah. I have a bunch of notes.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we have a lot of people tried. Do you think, let's ignore what happened and that we lost. The Democrats lost the election. Kamala lost. Do you think the Democrats will be stronger in 2028 because she lost? Or do you think they would be stronger in 2028 if she won? It's a trick question. There's no right answer.
Well, first of all, is Gavin Newsom doing like a pre-campaign right now?
Yeah, has he put a book out yet? Because that's coming.
I think maybe I'm just old, crotchety, and jaded. I do not see them pivoting at all. I do not see them. I mean, like, just look at the lack of support for Zohran Mamdani, right? Look at the lack of support for David Hogg. Look at what just happened in Minneapolis to the Democratic nominee there.
Omar Fata,
they overturned the nomination. So I think that these people have just been way too comfortable for way too long, that until we really divest from the party and go off and do our own thing somewhere else, they're not going to change.
Right. And I think you want a little bit of proof of that lack of energy, that they're not going to change. People aren't interested. Look at the numbers on the bottom of your screen. This program will begin shortly. How many people are watching this DNC live stream? 34 people on the planet. On the planet.
And I think I have 2 tabs open, so I'm probably 2 of them right now.
You're 2 of them, right? I'm one of them for sure. So like the idea that, hey, that at least the second most powerful party in the most powerful country to ever exist is about to change their rules and see how they're going to operate and how they're going to beat Republicans. And 36 people are now interested in that process. To me, that is a sign of they're not going to change anything, just like what you're saying right now, India, is there's no hope. And hope is really important. Remember Barack Obama, of course, my first election I voted in, I was pumped. I was like, oh yeah, we're going to end the wars. George W. Bush is done. It's going to be a better country. And it was nothing changed at all. Nothing changed at all. And even him being the hope and change guy, he didn't even come out strong for his vice president, Joe Biden, or the first black female president. Like, he even kind of sat that out. Like, he didn't see it. It's just sad right now how little hope there is, even from hardcore Dems, you know. There just doesn't seem like a direction that we're going that's going to result in Democrats winning.
But, you know, from a political strategy, right? Who wants to endorse a losing campaign?
Nobody.
And I think that his lack of fire for either one of those candidates was because he saw the writing on the wall, right? Like, all right, he had to do something because this is the incumbent and Biden, and then the de facto incumbent with Kamala. But it was like, it felt like he knew that they were going to lose.
Yep. You know, I think that this like lack of enthusiasm as we climb towards 37 people watching here is reflective of just this general attitude from party leadership in the Democratic Party that says things are happening behind closed doors here, and you're not invited, and, you know, we'll tell you what's what, just like the way they handled the nominating process in 2024. You know, we were among a group of people who was calling for Joe Biden to step aside, but then also critically for open primaries, right? We didn't say Joe Biden step aside so Kamala Harris can run for president. I mean, maybe she would have won the primaries. She was in a good position to, I don't know. But we were calling for open primaries because open primaries are galvanizing. And that's what we wanted. We wanted enthusiasm. Oh, and it looks like they're starting up here.
The Resolutions Committee co-chairs,
Patrice
Taylor and Rich Fitzgerald.
Buckle up. The excitement's just beginning. India, I know you have to leave in 5 or 10 minutes. So if things are going on and you just have to bounce, that's okay. Thank you so much.
My name is Ron Harris, and I am from the great state of Minnesota. Welcome to my town. So glad to see you all here. And I serve as co-chair of the Resolutions Committee alongside Yohi Bejarano from Arizona. Just briefly, I've been on the Resolutions Committee, I think, for 7 years now. I'm the DNC for 9.
I think this person has 2 laptops.
Amazing. I was a little kid when I started this thing, and now I feel like an OG. And I have the great honor of also serving as chair of the Midwestern Caucus of the DNC.
Thank you, Ron. Hi, I'm Yolanda Bejarano. I'm the former chair of the Arizona Democratic.
Do you know any of these people? Oh. No, we don't know any of these people.
I don't. I'm trying to read the placards, but
gotcha.
Thank you to the members of the Resolutions Committee joining us today as we consider resolutions that amplify the policies of our party or they honor the lives of distinguished and prominent Democrats that we have recently lost. It is such a privilege to serve on this committee with you, and I look forward to the work that we're going to do together ahead. I also want to extend a thank you to the members who have submitted resolutions and those members who have indicated their support for various proposed resolutions by signing on as co-sponsors. So per our rules, any DNC member who wanted to co-sponsor a resolution had to advise the Secretary's office and party affairs prior to this meeting. So all members who indicated their
Ryan, I
interest
just
in
want to
co-sponsoring
share
a
a
resolution
little
by the initial August
small piece
18th.
of breaking news that I've just received, which is that I'm hearing from one of the supporters of the Resolution 18, the good resolution on Gaza, that the committee, the resolutions committee, has decided to limit the number of speakers that will be allowed to speak on the resolution to just the sponsors. So that's just Allison Minnerly, who wrote the resolution. This is, according to the person who's sending me this information, this is very, very unusual and deeply concerning. Typically, they have multiple speakers on resolutions, and so they're limiting the number of speakers here. So this is just a sort of textbook parliamentary move to turn this into a much smaller issue than it could have been. The fact that they're not allowing debate on this resolution means that there really won't be an opportunity to gauge the level of support they have, and they can move straight to an up and down vote on this resolution. So they can, instead of saying, we had a conversation about this and we heard different viewpoints, they can say the resolution lost and there isn't support for it. I'm not even sure if they report vote totals.
I was thinking maybe that meant that opposition wouldn't be able to get up there, and it would be a good thing, but it's a bad thing.
Yeah, I think it's bad because it's an opportunity to paint this as a rogue DNC member who put forward this resolution, or that there isn't widespread support for it. I've seen whip lists for this resolution. There is broad support for this. I'm not sure it's majority support within the DNC, but this is a much more contested resolution than you might think from what we'll hear from the party later. I mean, this is a resolution that has support in a lot of different corners of the country. So just a piece of information, but I think you can already see some of the maneuvering going on that I sort of expected us to see.
This was the parliamentary maneuvering kind of you were referencing.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean,
some degree. Yeah. Jeff Cohen, co-founder of Roots Action and over at Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, joining us now. I'm going to add him to our stage as they finish up roll call. How you doing, Jeff?
Good. I've been listening and watching.
Yeah, they got off to a late start, but they're going now. I'm going to bring the volume back up, and we'll comment as we go. When it gets boring, we can talk if they're still doing roll call.
Here.
Looks like they're doing roll call.
Jeff, yeah, right. Yeah, we can read that at the bottom at least. Jeff, any expectations here today? Thoughts?
Well, I wanted to comment on the issue of hope. That the DNC leadership has been pretty pathetic, and we're not expecting a lot in the next 2 days. But we have victories happening, and the biggest is Zoran Mamdani in New York City. I think that's given people across the country hope that if you run on a progressive populist platform and you build a grassroots movement and small donors, small dollar donors, you can win. So I think that's what's electrified all the progressives that are so disgusted by a DNC that's still allied with AIPAC. Zoran Mamdani is not allied with AIPAC. He's not allied with any of the traditional Democratic Party corporate lobbies. So it's pretty exciting.
That's good. We'll see if the party will actually support him in any way. The last clip I saw, I think, was Hakeem Jeffries on CNN or something saying it's just so how he talks about Zoran. He was like, he did this and that, and then he went off to Africa. I'm like, that is an insane thing to say from one black guy. Like,
Jeffries, Jeffries keeps taking Republican talking points.
Oh,
yeah,
that's one. That's a New York Post right-wing talking point. There was another one he took about Zoran living in a rent-controlled apartment. I mean, a lot of well-off, decently paid working class and struggling middle-class people have rent-controlled apartments. We want to expand the number of people in rent-controlled apartments and rent-stabilized apartments, not be upset that Zoran was in one. But again, that was something Jeffries said on television. I think it was CNN. He's taking Republican talking points. We should remember that Zoran Mamdani won Jeffrey's district. In the first round, he did better in Jeffrey's district than Jeffrey's. So I just, it is disgusting to see a DNC that's so out of step with a grassroots that's ready to rejuvenate this party.
Yeah.
But at every step, we're blocked by the leadership of the party. Anytime, I mean, India, we're looking at someone, your picture could be in the dictionary for someone that the Democratic leadership sold out when the grassroots was ready to do something exciting. And that's the problem that we face, that there's so, especially young people, so ready to be active. Young people helped power the Zoran victory in the primary. They're going to really be active in the general for Zoran, but you have a party leadership that doesn't want that energy.
It's time for them to start losing, and they will. And I have to jump, but I'll rejoin this if anything is still going on a little later.
All right. Thank you, India. We'll talk to you soon.
Subsequent. So as you all know, we're all here because this party and this process means something to us. With that in mind, we ask that you each come to the table assuming best intent from your colleagues. We want to build trust. We want to listen openly. We want to engage in discussion that reflects our shared values. So as a reminder, the DNC bylaws establish the role of this committee to consider all resolutions proposed by a member of the DNC on matters of policy and principles consistent with the Democratic Party platform or to honor a recently deceased prominent Democrat. Again, as we consider today's resolutions, please keep in mind the scope of our responsibilities. While the issues before us are important and at times contentious, we cannot lose sight of the bigger truth that we are ultimately on the same side. We may come at things from different perspectives, but our work here is not about dividing or tearing down. Our work is actually about finding the common ground that brings us together, even when that path is hard. So as we move through today's business, let's do so with respect, with empathy, and with the awareness that every single person at this table is here because you care deeply about the future of this party, you care deeply about the future of this country. And if we can carry that spirit with us, I believe that the work that we do today will make us stronger and help us live up to the very values that we're here to defend.
To the people who
So
want
with
to
a
keep
noticeably
the
larger
going.
committee, we ask that you are mindful of your speaking time as well, so everyone has an opportunity to participate. As co-chairs, it is our responsibility to ensure that the meeting is a productive use of your time. So to keep the discussion moving, we're going to recognize the next speaker once one member has had 1 to 2 minutes to address the committee. Please don't get mad when we start cutting mics and saying, hey, all right, you hit your 2 minutes. We all agree? All right. Are there any questions before we get started?
He had to emphasize that we should treat everyone with good
Any
faith.
questions?
But they have this counter resolution that basically is no better than Kamala Harris and Joe Biden on Gaza.
Okay,
And it's written by lobbyists. It's written by DMFI, Democratic Majority for Israel.
Cost of living and address the affordability crisis
I
in
also
America.
didn't hear there any procedural.
The chair will recognize John
standpoint
Verdeo to make brief
limiting
remarks. In the interest of time, we ask that you keep your remarks 1 to 2 minutes in length.
So that was interesting.
Good morning, committee. Good morning, chair. Good morning, everyone. I want to speak of resolution number 1 positively in resolution number 1. The wording says it all. I mean, there's no real reason for me to give a 2-minute soliloquy. And we all here, we understand that, one of the party's many roles is to also help those lesser of us. And what's happening right now is this. And what's happening is this with what's happening with the GOP. I refuse.
Tap back in when we get to the actual resolution here, but this appears to be to bring down the cost of living and address the affordability crisis in America. Is this just words, or they're not actually proposing anything? They're just trying to take the direction of the party towards caring about this. Is that right?
Well, they missed their opportunity in 2024 when they could have talked about inflation as a serious problem brought on by corporate greed and corporate control of various industries. But that's not what the Democratic Party leadership did in 2024. They basically kept telling working people, middle-class people, the economy's better than you realize. That's not a winning strategy. So maybe this resolution is a step in a good direction, but they're taking it because they are not in power like they were in 2024, trying to tell us that inflation was not as big a problem as we thought it was.
Didn't they run with, what was it, Bidenomics for a while before quickly abandoning that when nobody felt that the economy was going well?
Yeah. Well, it's like on MSNBC every night, and I watch too much cable news, as you know. They would basically tell people, how come people don't realize how good the economy is? And it's like these elite talking heads lecturing
with huge bank accounts, like
and they're lecturing middle class and working class people. Don't you realize the economic indicators say that Bidenomics is working? The right approach to inflation is the approach that Warren and Bernie and others took, which is this is greedflation. These are grocery stores and other big, powerful interests raising prices because they can get away with it in the name of supplies, chain problems and other problems.
Yeah, blame everything else except their bank accounts getting larger.
We commit to organizing everywhere, competing everywhere, and winning everywhere to put a check on his out-of-control administration. And our last action on this resolution, that we will work tirelessly to undo the damage that this president has done and deliver relief and opportunity for American families. I urge you to consider voting yes.
So this is the resolution just condemning Trump's first 6 months. Just blanket condemnation.
Before we continue, please note that our bylaws limit discussion to resolution committee members only. The chair will now entertain a motion to recommend this resolution for approval.
The same process going on for 18 is going on for the rest of them.
Is there any discussion?
So far, yeah, it sounds like we're only hearing.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
But there wasn't
any opposed.
Discussion. I just
resolution 2 passes. Let's go to
transparency
resolution number 3.
Hold on 1 second.
All right, now they're on res 3.
Yeah, this is 3.
Yeah, we're on number 3 now.
So this is the chair approved Israel relating resolution that is really toothless, that we expect this to pass very quickly, and this is the sort of counterpoint to the resolution we've been supporting, resolution 18, which is much later in the meeting.
And I think it's important. Tell me if I've got this wrong, Sam. Resolution 18 was brought by a young DNC member from Florida that really talks about an arms embargo and things that would really help the Palestinian people in Gaza. And there wasn't going to be a resolution like this, except it was written in response to an actual positive resolution that would have helped the Palestinian people. And then this counter resolution becomes number 3. It gets voted on first. But the actual resolution that would have done something is number 18. And am I right? If there had been no resolution number 18, there probably wouldn't be this counter resolution. There would have been not one word on Gaza.
I agree, yeah.
And I think we talked about this earlier. I think if you vote on this one, that gives you the shield to vote against the other one because you've already done it. This resolution also, they just mentioned, has to do with allowing aid into Gaza, which is their excuse, see, we are helping, we are fair. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And the Democratic Party recognizes the worth of every Israeli, and
I want to note too, this is
not
motivating this resolution.
Let's listen. I think Martin's talking.
Determination free from violence, extremism, and hatred in all forms. Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, I submit this resolution for consideration by this committee.
Thank you, Chairman. The chair will now entertain a motion to recommend this resolution for approval. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we will now vote on recommending the resolution.
No
All
one
in favor of the
opposed it.
resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right,
No
resolution three
opposition
carries.
so
So
far
that's
to
what we
anything.
Moving to resolution number 4 on the
I wanted to
financing of our presidential
Yep.
primary elections.
Brian.
The chair will recognize our chairman, Ken Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam
Just
Chair.
want to note that
committee
this-
members.
that Ken Martin motivated that last resolution, just underlining again that the chair has is putting his weight behind that last resolution and this one. This is
Not
the
18.
well, we'll see for 18.
Okay.
But this is the dark money and politics
American people-
resolution coming up here. Roots Action has supported this resolution, and this is a step towards, but a very meek step towards
Small
getting,
step, because
yeah.
it skips 2026, right? It moves
Right.
straight to 2028. It's
Right.
embarrassing.
but nevertheless, we haven't really seen this sort of resolution before at the DNC. So let's listen. to
Puts
this.
it in.
To find ways to Citizens United and to get the corrosive impact of money out of politics, and it's long past due. Our party needs to live its values, and we're going to live our values through our party process. Now, we might not be Congress, we might not be the courts, but what we can do is to use our power and platform to model good behavior. We can use our DNC task force on reforms, which is newly composed, to take up this issue as a critical party business and explore what tools are at our disposal to actually effectuate this change in our presidential primary process. And that's exactly what my resolution does. While we can't overturn Citizens United, we don't have the power to do that. We do have some power through our process here to actually live our values as a party, and that's what this intends to do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The chair will now entertain a motion to recommend this resolution for approval. Is there a second? Any discussion? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Peg Schaefer from New Jersey. The only thing I want to say about it is I believe in full transparency with respect to dollars that we raise, but we're in a situation now where when they go low, we need to go lower. So I want to make sure we're not going to say that we're not going to take dark money if they are going to take dark money, because I think we need whatever resources we can get to make sure
You
we
know what I
turn-
said? That's exactly what I said.
Thank you, Ms. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we will now vote on recommending the resolution as printed. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 4 carries. Resolution number 5. Yes.
Let's talk about the,
It's okay to clap.
um,
I'm not being strict, but it's
maybe
okay.
let's
It's
turn
okay.
down the volume and talk about what just happened.
Interesting.
Am I right that this resolution probably passed exactly as it was proposed and we saw it a week or so ago?
Yes. Yeah.
And the complaint that we've had is, while this addresses the presidential primary of 2028, there's no mention of the issue where the dark money, the Republican money, the AIPAC money, the right-wing money comes into Democratic primaries. That's usually in congressional primaries, and the next congressional primaries are 2026, and this resolution did not even mention 2026.
Yeah, I've never seen any teeth at all in this resolution. It's like grandstanding a lot to me, because the main issue is the Republican PACs playing, which this will in no way it doesn't affect really AIPAC or the NRA from doing things. So yeah, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure what the actual mechanism is for stopping a freedom of speech move, as the courts declared.
Right. And this is, this is a place where we've sort of arguably we've seen dark money be least impactful, least influential in the nominating primary process for the presidency. It's not a place where we've been as concerned as we have been in congressional primaries, as Jeff was just saying. And then this resolution is only applicable. And again, this resolution has no teeth. It's an expression of values, but only applicable to primaries, not to the general. So in the general, I imagine we'll still see a full embrace of whatever dark money entities are out there, whatever money's on the table. And, as the delegate from New Jersey just said, indeed, you don't want to, leave a tool in the toolkit, I guess, when you're looking at winning a presidential race. But this is, a far cry from moving towards actually limiting corporate influence in elections. It's effectively tantamount to like a gentleman's agreement that will frown at the appearance of outside money in the presidential primary.
And that originally, I think I heard from Al Franken probably 15 years ago when he made the argument of course we have to take this money. That's who I was trying to remember.
Right.
And, the DNC could put some teeth that if a candidate accepts outside money or Republican money or money, we will publicly denounce that candidate or we will sanction that candidate.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem, though, is those groups aren't allowed to coordinate with the campaigns. And so it's not about accepting or not accepting. They just do whatever they want. That's the dark super PAC money, is that there is no coordination. If they told them not to, then that would be coordination.
Well,
so it's like,
no, they could say that if the candidate is being supported by one of these super PACs and has not renounced their support vocally or had put out an ad renouncing, then we will sanction that candidate. Something like that.
Something. Right. On the resolutions going on right now they're talking about honoring the courage of the Democrats in the Texas state legislature who fled the state, which I didn't follow that too closely, but I thought that was pretty cool, to be honest. And now they're all back there and it wasn't worth anything but a performance, but good try.
It was a delay. It was not a stop.
It was a delay and that took courage. And so that's good. The next two is the resolution recognizing the historic contributions of the labor movement to the Democratic Party, which is ironic considering we're coming up after the Biden presidency. And then after that is a resolution in support of accurate, open, and transparent elections in the U.S. So that's what we got coming up right now. And I will go back to our volume now.
I learned yesterday that the park moved from Minnesota to Texas. The Stars, the Dallas Stars that have won the Stanley Cup, we're from Minnesota. I just barely learned that at the Capitol Grill yesterday. So again, this is a very personal from hockey to the Voting Rights Act. And really last is this. And I mentioned it to some of the staff, Mr. Chairman. Being from Texas, we are very familiar with the North, including Minnesota, because we were farm workers once. I've been in Minnesota, I've been in Wisconsin, I've been in Ohio. One of my brothers was born in Ada, Minnesota, because of this farm worker concept. One of my sisters was born in Wautoma, Wisconsin. Another brother and sister was born in Toledo, Ohio. And my dad was born in Toledo, Ohio. So this visit, besides coming and thanking Mr. Chairman for this resolution, is a personal reason because how we all work together. Again, great job, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. So I support the resolution.
This is the kind of stuff we saw a lot of in the last meeting, was the patting each other on the back and telling each other how much we love each other and how thankful we are and how hard we work to lose. So, excuse me if I find that stuff to be really annoying at this point. I just don't care.
Finding out that taking healthcare away from 17 million Americans.
Ryan, there are so many things going on in this country that need to be opposed, that Democratic leadership should be debating. How do we best oppose this instead of as you say, slapping the other guy on the back? It's absurd. There really needs to be strategic discussions if we had an opposition party about how to confront this, how to challenge that, instead of all the backslapping.
Well, there should be a formal place for debate. All the debate in the Democratic Party right now appears to take place in dark rooms nobody knows about, where there's no debate. Someone's just telling you what to do, or kind of on social media through people who aren't the DNC. It's all very weird. And it seems like there should be a place, maybe instead of 2 meetings, they could have 4 meetings. And on those in-between meetings, they could literally argue with each other, which is what needs to happen.
Right. And remember, when Roots Action and Progressive Democrats of America, supported by Congressman Ro Khanna, when we were talking about we need an emergency meeting of the DNC, don't wait till the summer. We also said, and we want independent analysts and experts to be at that meeting instead of just a closed shop here of the few members talking to each other and slapping each other on the back, patting each other on the back. We needed really some new energy analyzing how to resist the assault that's coming on immigrants, working people, trans people, you name it.
And I think we can see the value in those fights that you can have. The GOP is stronger right now than it has been in a long time. 10 years ago, the word was that the Republican Party was going to dissolve and not exist, right? Democrats run that narrative every 5 years or so. But they had it out. They fight a lot. There's a lot of internal fighting going from George W. Bush to Trump. To this day, Marjorie Taylor Greene going hard to end the war and support for weapons to Israel. Like, it's such a weird world. They're not afraid to fight each other. Democrats are the kumbaya party, though. We are not allowed to have any public dissension. I think it makes them much weaker.
Look at how much trouble the Republicans had even choosing a Speaker of the House.
Right.
They fight and fight and fight, and the Democrats are usually unified.
But they got somebody who's kind of willing to fight, and we end up with just the worst speaker. Hakeem's not good.
Please note that our bylaws limit discussion to resolution committee members only. And again, I'll ask 1 to 2 minutes for your remarks. I will entertain a motion to recommend this resolution for approval. Is there a second? Is there any discussion on the resolution? All right. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nathan Soltz, Oregon. First, I want to really thank and commend our good chair for bringing this forward, and I requested to be on as a sponsor, so I certainly hope to see that reflected when this goes up to the full body. Similar to our DNC chair, I'm one of the few, I believe, state party chairs to be a union member, and was one of the original organizers to make our legislative staff in Oregon the first in the country to become unionized. And I do believe that it is so critical that every breath that we are able to, we remind folks of not just our party's commitment to labor, but also reminding folks that our party would not exist without labor. And this resolution is such an important first step so early on in the new chair's term, that we make sure folks know that that is how we are leading.
Ryan,
So
let's
thank you.
discuss this. The resolution is basically praising the role of the labor movement, the historic contributions. What you want out of a party leadership is here's our 5-point. Let's debate what our 5-point agenda will be to help the labor movement rebuild the day we take power. There's just nothing concrete. It's all empty rhetoric.
It's all empty rhetoric, and it's just, it's a resolution saying, hey, we love you guys. You guys did great. The Republicans aren't going to pass a resolution like this, so please stay with us. It's super weak, especially after, if you want to remind people how Biden ended a collective bargaining agreement, or how did that play out exactly? Do you remember?
Yeah, he intervened in the railway strike.
Right.
They were striking for something elementary, which was sick days. The Biden administration said we're on the side of sick days for workers, and then they basically sold out the union. But I mean, we've had this history where they have empty resolutions, and then when they're in power and they control all three, they have the trifecta of the White House, the House, and the Senate. Remember when Obama had the trifecta, they had this labor act that would have made it easier to organize unions. What was it called? The PRO Act.
PRO Act, yeah.
And they didn't lift a finger.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so frustrating about watching meetings like this is that, the Democrats are in the minority right now in a major way. There's almost nothing they can do, as they remind us at every turn. And so this is the time for them to be projective about what they're going to do when they're back in power, as Jeff is saying. This is the time for them to transmit values, transmit a vision for what this party could look like in distinction with what the current Republican regime looks like, which is not popular. It's really important to remember people are not happy by and large with what's happening with the Trump administration. Attitudes on immigration have shifted markedly, as they've seen with this Gestapo ICE deportation racket. Looks like people are still unhappy with the direction of the economy. They still have the sense that rich people are getting richer while everyone else suffers. So it's a good time for an opposition party to say, we can be better. If you vote us back into power, we can do real things that are really going to affect your life. We're really going to make things better in the country. But instead, this is what we have. It's platitude after platitude, a recognition of the labor movement's historic value. As Jeff's saying, what about right now, where the labor movement is at a historical low point in this country's history? It's a shame. It's a travesty. What is the party going to do to rebuild the labor movement? What's the party going to do to bolster open, transparent elections in the United States? I mean, these are resolutions with no teeth, as we've been saying, but it's still an opportunity to be militant as a party, and I don't see that happening at all right now.
And to put forward a specific program, which they're not doing. These resolutions are generally so empty.
Totally empty, and then there's no actual debate, and so nothing gets put together. You know, continuing on labor, the NLRB its existence is threatened now at this point. And I want to go back to that rail conversation a little bit. We had Pete Buttigieg as the Secretary of Transportation, who knew nothing about transportation. I live in Indiana. South Bend's right over. There ain't no transportation there, right? It's not a transportation town, okay? Everyone has a car. That is the transportation there. But Pete wants to be president. But while Secretary of Transportation, he screwed over Ohio with that rail crash. He didn't support the labor strikes. And then a big one, we haven't proposed new rail. Like the Democrats did have power. We could have, if we really cared about, and I know I'm just talking about the rail workers here, but labor in general, there are things you could propose that strengthens labor on a systemic level across the country. Building new rail would do that, but they turned their back on rail every chance they had, even when they had the trifecta, like you talked about. There's no progress anywhere.
Importance of the 90th anniversary of Social Security. And this,
there's another empty one.
Another empty. Raise the cap. Raise the cap.
Yeah. And Medicare. The Democrats have allowed Medicare to be privatized through Medicare Advantage, a specific 5-point program on how we're going to strengthen and expand Social Security and Medicare. That's the resolution we want to hear, instead of all this empty rhetoric about it's just empty. It's emptiness. And part of it is the Democrats are so allied with Wall Street, and Wall Street wants these things privatized, Social Security, Medicare, that they don't have a 5-point program that working people could understand and might galvanize young people and working people about Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security.
Right. Well, when you run a resolution that says we're going to improve it, we all agree we need to improve it. It's important. Well, that gives all these candidates all across the country the option to say, well, what does improving it mean? How do we improve it? None of them are talking about raising the cap, which would immediately fix Social Security. Very little talk about prescription drug costs, things like this. So that allows them to do things like public-private partnerships locally and do all these things that really just drive more money into insurers and pharmaceuticals and hospitals.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
So I want to
discussion
flag. Coming up right after this is going to be the resolution condemning anti-Semitism that is, sort of part and parcel. There is a resolution also condemning Islamophobia on the agenda that's coming up a few after the one on anti-Semitism. So it'll be interesting to see how these two resolutions play out. A lot of the rhetoric in the anti-Semitism resolution is sort of the same that we've been hearing around, this sense that anti-Semitism is growing a lot in this country, that it's gone up radically since 10/7 in Israel. So it'll be interesting to see how the party deals with that.
Well, there'll be no debate, and they're going to rubber stamp it.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, politicians like Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania or Schumer, you know, they use the phony charge of anti-Semitism to prop up the Israeli genocide and massacre of the civilian population of Gaza. It's so obvious that's what they're doing. And they get paid a lot of money. They're getting a lot of money from AIPAC and related lobbies to play it that way. And they don't understand it. Norman Solomon's column on Progressive Hub from yesterday just, talks about it.
Well-being or properties, and many of us depend on, in addition to our savings that we're able to do through our lifetime, we depend on Social Security and Medicare to have a decent, just, and healthy end of.
To the anti-Semitism resolution as well. I think one of the issues, obviously everyone's going to support it, rubber stamp. Obviously everybody's against anti-Semitism. I think one of the issues there is, like we're saying, it's going to be used as a cudgel to support genocide further. A lot of the instances of anti-Semitism are people saying free Palestine, right? So you lessen racism, you lessen anti-Semitism to such a high degree when you say any kind of support for Palestinian babies not dying is anti-Semitic. So everything's anti-Semitic if everything's anti-Semitic,
More importantly, when the Democrats play that line, they're actually enabling Trump to take that line and deport people in the name of resisting anti-Semitism.
Right. Both parties agree. So what's the issue?
What's going to happen to children that have cancer or any other kind of illness? And also seniors. Where are seniors going to go when they're dumped into the streets because they can no longer live in the facility they are? This is very serious, and it will affect, guaranteed, everyone in this room's lives, because babies like Liam should get the care that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in the stack is Harini, and then followed by Ms. Adams.
Hi, this is Harini Krishnan from California. I want to speak to this resolution as a caregiver. I have a father who is going through cancer treatment. He's on Medicaid. He has worked all his life for Social Security benefits. I have a mother who was in a hospital ICU and is now in a long-term nursing facility. And my sisters and I are able to support them at this moment. But in the process of taking care of my mother every single day for the last 60 days, I shudder to think about the seniors in this country when Medicaid is taken away and when Social Security is deprived. And this resolution is personal and it speaks to me. So thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Harini. Recognize Ms. Denise Adams.
Denise Adams, North Carolina. I like so many of
I'm
this
going to jump off there, but I'll read with you all shortly. Hopefully in time to discuss Resolution 18.
Yep, we'll see you here shortly, Sam. Thank you. Hey, Jeff, they talk about the Social Security stuff, all these personal stories. I think that stuff's really important. For my own life, me and my wife bought a house with her grandpa specifically to make sure we can take care of family, because we don't know if we'll be able to rely on these things. And because he had a lot of major surgeries, medical issues that could wipe him out totally if insurance is weird at one point. So this stuff really does matter, and people really like family planning goes on around Social Security. So
this would be such a winning issue against the Republicans if it was framed right.
I'll never forget just briefly watching and I asked Cenk Uygur about this when I saw him at the DNC. He had talked to Charlie Kirk, right-winger Charlie Kirk, at the RNC convention 2024, and Charlie Kirk had never even heard that the left stance on Social Security was to raise the cap. He had never even heard that. He had never heard of it. He said, "Oh, that actually does sound reasonable." And I was sitting there watching, like, what is going on right now? But yeah, the Democrats, if it's so popular, if they would just push it out there and explain to people, Social Security would be saved. And I don't think there'd be a lot of people against raising the cap.
Isn't it interesting, though? Like, even whoever's running the DNC's live stream, they keep focusing on the whereases.
Yeah.
But why aren't we seeing what they're resolving to do as a party to defend seniors and working people and defend their medical care and defend Social Security? I'm not even seeing the be it resolved on the screen.
It seems a little like, I don't want to be rude to them, but it seems like I bet the Republicans showed up with a well-designed PDF and we're like an open Word document scrolling through it. So I feel like maybe this could have been set up a little bit better. If they scroll down through this doc, I bet just below this, we'll see the therefore this, and
yeah,
this.
But
it's still nothing.
They've been stuck on the whereas for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah. Hopefully they scroll down so we can actually see what the resolution they're voting on is.
As a supervisor of County of Santa Clara, we have 2 million people. We own 4 hospitals. Our trauma care, our ER beds will have to be cut because the impact just to our county is going to be over $1 billion a year. Just think about that image. You have to see Dr. Evil. That's $1 million. Just think $1 billion. This is what's happening to our county every year. We're talking about closing hospitals, closing clinics, and I just want to make sure people understand too, mental health, we talk about unhealth issues and mental health, that's where the cut's going to come from. So if you think a homeless situation is bad in the streets, this is going to get way worse. So I just want to make sure people get to visualize, even though you might not have Medicaid, like say, I'm Kaiser, I won't need, yes, you will, because we're the only one who has a trauma center, because you had that really bad accident, knock on wood, you don't. We are the only hospital system, the county hospital is the only one that has the capability to save your life and your loved ones. So I just want to bring that up. Thank you very much, Keith, for bringing this up.
You know, a lot of the clinics, not the hospitals, but the clinics are funded by Medicare and Medicaid, the people who go to clinics. So if you cut that, my buddy who's a nurse practitioner just went from a clinic. He's in the process of going to a hospital because the clinics are falling apart. They can't, they're very worried about losing this money. The patients, because they're all for profit too. So
Semitism. Is Andrew Lockman from California in the room?
This guy's a big Israel apologist.
The chair will now entertain a motion to recommend this resolution for approval by the DNC. Is there a second? Any discussion? Mr. Schultz?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I sent in writing an amendment to Co-Chair Harris earlier. I didn't have your email, but I can read it out too. I'm a sponsor of this resolution. And while I was reviewing the packet for today, I was really moved by Resolution 13 that we'll get to later on Islamophobia as well. There were 2 lines in particular in there, 2 whereas clauses that I wanted to adapt into Resolution 10 as well. So I can read those. I can also send them
on, regardless of the messaging
as well.
Sorry about that.
So I can read those. I can also send them if it's easier that way. But it would be to...
I don't think we ever did see the therefores on the Social Security.
No.
So if you're looking at the back page, it's after the third full whereas and would read, Whereas anti-Semitism and anti-Jewish bias are not limited to the Republican Party and have manifested across the political spectrum, and whereas anti-Semitism is endemic to the other major political party in the United States, the Democratic Party has a critical and special responsibility to protect the rights of Jewish organizers, voters, and elected officials to equitable participation and free speech in political discourse at political events without fear of harassment, exclusion, or violence.
Support.
I just don't.
Did you send those?
This is so performative,
I
right?
emailed
This is a
to
performance.
Chair Harris
Yeah.
if there's a better email.
I mean, it's not like Jewish speakers are being silenced.
At Democrat events, like what?
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
Well, they're, I'm assuming they're going to install that in the
on the screen for
in the
review.
anti-Islamophobia resolution, that same thing, that Muslims should not be excluded from any discussions.
Well, hopefully
That's
they
a-
have all the same whereases where it's like, whereas Muslims have contributed greatly to the United, like
I suspect that will be in there.
I would hope so.
But as we have not seen what they're resolving.
That language came
A
from
Democratic
another
Party
resolution,
that wants to
13.
win has got to start
It was adapted out of two whereas clauses.
resolving
of
to do
13,
things and start doing them and start winning
accept-
instead of all this
so just
empty
a
rhetoric.
vote for anti-Semitism, and I have forwarded it to the party affairs email that was provided to me as well.
Mr. Chairman, are those whereas clauses 4 and 5 from resolution 13? Great.
I have no
Okay,
idea.
the amendment is on the screen. Or no?
We need a second for that amendment.
Well, I haven't done it yet. So an amendment has been proposed. Is there a second? Second, okay. It has been
So they're
moved and
amending
seconded
it to
amend
say
the
that
resolution.
anti-Semitism is also exists in the Democratic Party.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, across the political
On the amendment.
spectrum. That's sort of a Josh Shapiro line.
Let's see, any
Oh,
discussion?
that's
All those in favor of the
criticism of
amendment, say
Israel
aye.
as anti-Semitism.
Any
kind of
opposed, say
dog
nay.
whistle.
Okay, the amendment is adopted. And now we'll return to the
Again, we haven't
resolution
seen what
as
they're
amended.
resolving to do, just the whereases.
Or even someone being like, why? Or wait a
All right,
second,
is there
or
any
anything.
further
It's all just,
discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we will now vote on recommending adoption of the resolution as amended. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
there's not been a nay yet today.
Now they're going to jump over.
Next is
Therefore, be it
Resolution
resolved to skip all of
11,
those.
Resolution urging DNC support for HR.
It's sort of weird.
4212, and
You know,
congressional
where,
enforce on territorial
whereas is those whereas paragraphs are considered the preamble.
Right.
And then the be it resolved is considered the heart of
The
the
action.
resolution.
Yeah. These are the whys, and then it's
Yeah.
the what. They're showing us a lot of whys that are easy to agree with, and not a lot of whats.
Yeah.
Delegation, and this is my first time sitting on.
Oh,
the
this is about
resolutions
voting
committee.
rights. This is good, but I'd like to see the
Served
be it
DNC for
resolved.
Well over 20 years. And in contemplating this resolution, I thought it was very important that the voices of the territories are heard in a way that our rights that are being denied.
So is DC in a different category than America, Samoa, Guam, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands?
Yeah, I sure hope there's a Washington, D.C. resolution. It would be
Weird if there's not at this point in time.
yeah, it would be political malpractice if there's no resolution. And there should have been one even before he militarized D.C.
Yeah.
We are born U.S. citizens. If we choose to reside in any of these
I
territories,
mean, the Republicans
we
are
never,
cutting
ever
up Texas, and they're
are
going to do it to
afforded the
Indiana too,
opportunity
so
to
that they can have
exercise
more
the right
seats.
to vote
And
for
the
president,
Democrats won't even push
nor
to get a senator
do
or
we
two
receive
from
SSI.
DC. It's just the weakness, the inability, or
I
lack
said
of
to
desire
say
to
as
fight.
well that individuals who reside in the United States, if you choose to relocate to any of these territories, which by the way includes Puerto Rico, you will be denied that right to vote for president. So I think my resolution and resolution supported by all of my colleagues from the territory is rather straightforward. And so I'm going to reserve I will return the rest of my time because I simply want for unanimous support from the members today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms.
This is a
Clerk.
good
The chair
resolution
will now entertain a motion
to
to
get
recommend
people
this
who are
resolution
U.S.
for approval by the
citizens
DNC. Is there a second?
to be voting.
Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll now vote on recommending the adoption of the resolution as printed. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The resolution carries. All right.
Jeff, do you think we'll see a single nay today?
Well, I think
We will now
resolution
proceed to
18 is going to
12,
be.
resolution in remembrance of the 80th anniversary of the first and only use of nuclear weapons in war and urging a serious examination of restricting the first use of nuclear weapons.
That's
Is
a good
Keith
one.
Umamoto?
Good, but
The chair will recognize Keith Umamoto from California.
the but is that no first use is something any president can simply ignore, right? Especially since presidents can't be held accountable for anything they do that's illegal. And secondly, it's a weak step. It's good, but it's a very weak. Like getting Trump to promise he won't nuke somebody. Good luck. Like
right. It should be the explicit position of the United States government that they won't do first use. I mean, there's so many things that Biden could have done to try to restart negotiations and get rid of the ICBMs that are so dangerous and can cause an accidental nuclear war. I'm assuming none of that is mentioned in this resolution, but we can't tell because they're not showing, they're live streaming their event without showing people the heart of each resolution, just the whereas preambles.
Right. It seems like sole authority would be something that would probably be better to go after with Trump in there than first use. If you have sole authority, you could actually have a mechanism by which he doesn't have a briefcase with a red button.
Well, I would love to see whether they're resolving that they do not want to spend billions of dollars, quote, modernizing the nukes. I assume that
no way. I want to see that too. There's just no way.
Yeah.
We see that.
These serious discussions, particularly with
Let's see though.
On 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Umamoto. The chair will now entertain a motion to recommend this resolution for approval by the DNC. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing no further discussion, we will vote
Israel's
on
dropped more
recommending the
than
adoption
22
of the resolution as
kilotons
printed. All
on
those in favor say
Gaza
aye.
with more than 40
All those
people,
opposed,
40,000
nay.
dead, probably 80,000.
The motion carries.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
We get as if.
Okay. We'll now proceed to Resolution 13, resolution to stomp out Islamophobia and promote peace, dignity, and inclusion for Muslim communities at home and abroad. Is Joe Salas?
I hope that the DNC members there have printouts.
He's coming?
Because they're
Well,
not.
they're going to add these paragraphs into this resolution.
The chair will recognize Joe Salas from California to make brief remarks.
And that document's not available anywhere, right?
It's so good to see so many California people on this.
This resolution doc that's going through. It only has 2 guests in it, so
our 50
imagine
states.
not.
So thank you for taking time to entertain this resolution. I worked closely with DNC staff to get this down to something that would be palatable for this august body. And really, I want to speak to and frame this in the frame of what our
I'd love to have a be it resolved.
Anything.
Yeah, it's wild that we're not seeing any of that on the live stream. That seems to probably just be a technical error on their side where they're not thinking about it. It does appear that this is very similar to the anti-Semitism resolution as well.
But I mean, the be it resolved, what I'd like to see is we resolve that we will be killing less innocent Muslims in our future foreign policy in the Middle East than we're doing now. But that's not a part of their Islamophobia agenda.
No, yeah, there's just a whole lot of nothing.
To but people are paying attention. Trust me when I say that. In my daily life, I as a Muslim American, many of my friends, I have non-Muslim friends. And so this speaks to having a voice that the perspective is, and people can say what they want, but perception is reality for some people. And there's been when we see things like Democratic Party leaders not endorsing Zoran Mandani.
Yep.
Right here in Minnesota.
There we go.
Fatah,
Here we go.
Here's some dissent.
Button I'm wearing today in solidarity with him. People can say, oh, it's maybe because of different procedures and whatnot, but how are things perceived by that community? That's what you need to get into. Their mindset, where they vote, whose name they check. And so I can go through the merits of the resolution, but I'm sure, having been on a past resolutions committee, that everyone's here has vetted this, and hopefully I can get a pass. But I'm open to work with any suggestions that this very wise committee may have. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'll give it back to the chair. Not that I have to give it back to the chair. Co-chairs, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salas. The chair will now entertain a motion to recommend this resolution for approval by the DNC. Is there a second? Any discussion? Okay, see no discussion.
I would love to be it resolved in this resolution. The Democratic Party leadership should immediately endorse the Democratic Party's candidate for mayor of New York.
Right.
Who is a Muslim. That's not part of it,
Now
though.
proceed to resolution 14, resolution to support.
I paused it because, yeah, I'm going to try to.
Wait, I think they're jumping to resolution 14,
Support
are
of
they
National
not?
Infrastructure Bank.
Oh, no, they're not.
National Infrastructure Bank. Let me try to pull this back.
We'll now proceed to resolution 14, resolution to support.
There we go. Condemning Islamophobia, equal right to speak, protest, worship, against the Muslim ban, calls for an end to endless wars and urges a focus in U.S. foreign policy on focus, it's weirdly worded, on focus on peace, humanitarian aid, multilateral diplomacy, and conflict prevention, particularly in regions long impacted by militarized U.S. interventions. Okay.
That's a good one.
But it's good. That the Democratic Party recommits itself to modeling a politics of inclusion, accountability, and people. Okay. Okay.
In support of national infrastructure.
So,
new federal spending.
Nothing for Mamdani.
Yeah.
A nice little line about how failed U.S. wars destroying Muslims in the Middle East.
Yeah, that was
anything, but it's.
This was the most cutting edge thing that's happened today. And
And
also the speaker saying that Democratic Party leaders should endorse Zoran Mandani. I don't think they were expecting to hear that.
You could get a sense that he was feeling a little tension in his voice. He wasn't as just like, oh, I'm so happy to be here. That guy knew that he was maybe going to get a talking to after, but I liked it.
There are several environmental safeguards that would help us reach our CO emissions. The bill will finance 5 million new units of
We're going to bring Sam back in now.
affordable housing.
Welcome back.
There are large numbers of endorsements, including the National Association of Counties, National Black Caucus of State Legislators, National Hispanic Caucus of State Legislators, National Asian Pacific American Caucus of State Legislators, and several Democratic endorsements, including the National Federation of Democratic Women.
Is this separate to postal banking, or would this be one and the same?
I don't know, because we can't see the be it resolved. Remember, every viewer, you stopped it and you went back, but the typical viewer on the live stream can't see what they're resolving to do. By the way, Sam, you missed the high point in the presentation of the anti-Islamophobia resolution. One of the delegate who was speaking and presenting that resolution said, and the Democratic leadership should endorse Zohran Mamdani, a Muslim, for mayor of New York. It's been the high point of the day so far.
Yeah, that's great. Who was that? Who introed the
Mr.
resolution?
Salas, I think Salas. I'm not
Oh, yeah.
sure from what state.
Joe Salas?
I guess.
That sounds right.
Joe is like a known progressive activist within the Democratic Party, so I'm not surprised at all. And I see that he's the author of several resolutions.
Do you know what state he's from?
I believe California, but
Yeah.
I'll double check.
Well, he specifically name dropped Zohran Mamdani and said that the party should be endorsing him and supporting him, which is definitely the most fireworks we've had today.
Yeah, he's from California. He's also a co-sponsor of the of Resolution 18. So, you know, that's when you hear Salas speaking, that's a more progressive voice that you're hearing.
Okay, we'll bring it back on.
Colleagues here today that are on this committee to help get that passed. The only question that I have, and I've already asked, and maybe it's in here and I just don't see it, is that I remember when the ARPA bill was first coming down and the CARES money, it was discussed that the monies would go from the Fed to the state to the counties. And cities and municipalities and small villages and towns were not part of that deal. It took the National League of Cities' efforts and advocacy to make it so that your cities got and received monies. So in this resolution, I see the state and I see the counties, and I just want to know, and I know it's bipartisan, but I want to make sure you cannot leave municipalities and cities out, because we again are where the buck stops. That's my comments on this. I support it, but I need to see, and maybe it needs to be amended again, because somebody speak to, are cities involved in this? Because right now I see counties and states. And most of the counties and states where I'm from, my state, they not feeling what we feel. My county does not feel what we feel. They don't spend the money equitably, particularly in the urban areas where people that are poor, brown and black and red and yellow live. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. At this time, I will ask for unanimous consent so we can.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Van Johnson, Mayor of City of Savannah, Georgia, and the Vice President, Second Vice President of the National League of Cities. Certainly, I think there's certainly opportunity to be able to take this resolution and fashion it in such a way that is pliable for organizations.
Yes, thank you so much. And with the unanimous consent, and make the work on the proposed amendments.
Madam Chair, I would like to just, I thought I'd said it, but for the record, the city councils of New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Seattle, Pittsburgh, and Detroit have already approved this bill. They've endorsed it. So there is money for the city. It's really jobs so that the city can get money. I just wanted to get that on record. Thank you.
Interesting.
Okay, we are back in debate and discussion. Is there any further discussion? And Ms. Adams, did you want to make an amendment to the resolution?
Yes, thank you. Again, I do see it on the handout that it says the NIB will invest in states, cities, counties, and public authorities. And I understand that it's for the jobs, but again, I think it needs to be pointed out if more cities are going to buy into this particular.
Any insight here on this, Sam? I have nothing. I don't know much.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, so this is not postal banking. This is about a national infrastructure bank. And I think
so. This would be a bank for municipalities to access.
Yeah,
like
I mean, I think
Fed,
it would,
but smaller kind of thing.
I think it would be for any municipal or any state entity, and I mean, you know, state, as you just heard this delegate say, state, municipality,
counties,
locality, counties, whatever. and it seems to me like I don't think this is contentious, but like what some of the folks who are speaking now really want to get on record is the fact that this is going to be this entity, should it ever exist, would really go to like jobs creation, funding local jobs in cities. So this is, a way to get a job creation engine in cities. And I think some of the, especially working class, blue collar jobs in cities. And I think some of the discussion you've seen and these points about, these cities have already passed it is really, it's trying to speak to that. It's import to people who live in urban environments for job creation in mostly democratic cities.
There to the states, to the counties, to the cities. Everybody got a piece. Everybody got something. Like, is it basically a scenario similar to that?
Well, I will just say,
excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but a discussion has to be limited only to committee members.
sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. Thank you.
Can anybody help me with that?
Is there a specific amendment?
I'm a cheerleader for it, but I gotta.
Ms. Adams, do you have a specific amendment that you would like to propose?
I would like to make sure that within the resolution, in the amendment, and that it's specifically called out that funding would be provided to states, counties, cities, and school boards. But cities has to be in there. I know they said it's in there, but that's the only amendment I need. And if it's already in there, I'm good, but I just needed to know that.
Very loose interpretation of Robert's rules here.
Whereas
Amending this on the fly with just the cursor in the Google Doc here.
Robert's rules of hanging out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Okay.
I don't know a lot about what they're talking about exactly. Like, clearly she wants to make sure cities have access to this money. I appreciate that she's fighting and trying and really making sure she can go back to her community and be like, dude, I tried.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate that.
And I think that looseness too that I was just talking about speaks to how non-contentious these proceedings usually are. Like in a real contested political meeting, you wouldn't have such a fast and loose chair, sort of letting people hop on the mic and speak when they want.
No, it'd be gavelled down.
Yeah. And it speaks to how friendly they expect this environment to be. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out when we get to more contentious resolutions. I mean, we really haven't had a moment where the Supreme Court has failed.
We've had barely 1.5 moments of uncomfort, and I think uncomfortability should be the main feeling at these things, because you should be arguing and debating with people. I thought you were my best friend, no, this isn't a social club.
This particular resolution condemns and calls upon Congress to remedy legislatively. It also calls upon us to call on Congress and the White House, when Democrats retake them, to revisit the size and structure of the Supreme Court. It is important to all of us that the courts be a check on the executive branch, that they have the ability to effectively do that, and that the Supreme Court has consistently failed to do that and has disempowered the lower courts to do that, is something that I think we as a party need to stand against. And that's why this resolution is here, and I submit it to you for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zaks.
That's interesting that when Democrats, when they take back power, to re-examine the Supreme Court to potentially add seats.
Yeah. This is a more aggressive resolution than the other ones we've seen.
Thank you.
Super aggressive. I mean, this is something I feel like a year ago the party was definitely not really talking about.
Reference for many of the members of the United States Supreme Court, it would behoove us to maybe consider in the resolution to point something out in the therefore be it resolved. So at this point, I'm making a motion to amend to add a couple of words to the therefore be it resolved. Right now it reads, therefore be it resolved that the Democratic National Committee denounces the failure of the Supreme Court of the United States. What I would prefer as a trial lawyer, and someone who again has great reverence for some of those justices, that it read the failure of the right-wing majority of the Supreme Court, because there are 3 very dignified justices there that have been fighting tirelessly to save our fundamental freedoms and rights. And I think that lumping them into that category denounces the hard work that they're doing for the U.S. citizens.
Thank you. Can we get the amendment up on the screen? Okay, an amendment has been proposed. Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded to amend the resolution. All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Sure.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, the amendment is.
I do think Ketanji Brown Jackson has been a fine Supreme Court judge. I don't know much about her, but there hasn't been a lot of controversy about her being too weak. It sounds like she's done a pretty good job. Am I right there, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I think that point was well taken. Like, there are 3 justices on the Supreme Court who are not, ultra rightists, who are working in collaboration effectively with the Trump administration. But it elides the point that you just, were discussing about, like, does this institution still work at all? I think I'm of the opinion that it does not. It's, it's always been an anti-democratic institution, and particularly in its current configuration, it's fundamentally opposed to majority-held beliefs in this country, was instrumental in overturning Roe, and in a lot of other really arch conservative decisions have been made. So I think that that's really where Democrats should focus.
It's not a bad resolution. We couldn't see what it was resolving, but the whereases were sure good. Now they're on to Alligator Alcatraz. I'd love to see.
Yeah.
Governor commandeered land owned by Miami-Dade County.
I hope it mentions Indiana because they're about to build the Speedway Slammer about 45 minutes from my house. So
In tent camps and left in heat, filth, and isolation. Families didn't know where their loved ones were. This was intentional. It's meant to instill fear, to disappear people quietly. And now other Republican governors are watching and planning to copy this model in their own states. Florida is a blueprint. If we don't stop it here, it will spread. The National Democratic Party must join the environmental and immigrant rights groups that have been fighting to close this detention camp.
I'm old enough to remember when the right-wingers and Alex Jones were warning us of the FEMA camps and concentration camps that the government was going to build for us. I don't know if you guys are that old, but
yeah, they don't warn about it anymore. They're cheerleading for it.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Appealing the injunction and is moving forward with plans to open more state-run immigration detention centers. That's why we must pass this resolution, and I encourage you to consider an amendment that acknowledges this recent development from the federal judge. I sent that language to my.
Can I make a quick comment on prisons generally? Yesterday, or maybe the day before, the news came out that one of or both of the Menendez brothers, who have been in prison for killing their parents a long time ago, would not be getting paroled. And one of the reasons was because early on, they had joined a gang and had participated, and that's what prison is. It's so insane that our system is that you get into prison and you have to join gangs. You have to do awful things. You have to protect yourself. It's not a safe place. And then to keep them in exactly for those reasons is just insane to me.
Yeah, a horrific reason to deny parole. There may be others. But
you cared about your own safety. You didn't want to get stabbed to death. Unbelievable.
Florida has appealed the ruling and is moving forward with plans to expand this model, including a new site in North Florida intended to detain 2,000 more people under the same discredited legal theory of state-run immigration detention. And
on this issue, if they're not going to call for the abolition of the ICE Gestapo, at least they should call for cutting their funds significantly, but that's probably not here at all.
So there will be coming up Resolution 19, which is right after 18, is a discussion of ICE specifically. Okay. It doesn't call for the abolition of ICE, but it does call for support for Senator Padilla has a act, the Visible Act, that would force ICE agents to not cover their faces. There's also support for a pathway to citizenship legislation. But I agree with you, Jeff. I think at this point, it used to be that calling for the abolition of ICE was considered kind of a fringe left position. But I think after people have seen the horrors that they've inflicted over the last 6 months, that should be table stakes for the Democratic Party at this point. Time to roll up that agency, which has not existed for very long. Roll it up and start over. It's just not, it's completely far gone. I don't think there's any chance of reforming that agency anymore.
It was a big part of AOC's agenda from the beginning, and she looks prophetic now after the 6 months of Gestapo tactics by this agency.
When did it start? It was a George W. Bush, a 2002 thing?
Yeah, it was part of the post 9/11 kind of security.
Well, the Dems have shot themselves in the foot a little bit on this because they spent the last 5 years attacking their own voters for talking about defunding the police, which is neither here nor there in terms of language. But now we're like, oh no, federally, we literally need to defund these police officers because it's a Gestapo.
Yeah.
They've already set a narrative that that's the wrong thing to do. So it's going to be tough.
But I mean, while Medicaid and everything's being cut, rural hospitals, they're just giving all these billions of dollars to ICE.
Yeah.
It's so obviously an issue
$1
for
trillion
the Democrats.
military. It's $1 trillion military. And if you join ICE, you get your student loans canceled and you get, what is it, like $120,000, $130,000 starting. You get to cover your face so your mom and dad never need to learn that you're an evil piece of shit. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much money you can make if you have absolutely no ethics or morals.
And there was an EO. I mean, one of the EOs that Trump signed yesterday or the day before called for more people to enter the ranks of immigration enforcement, those with backgrounds in law enforcement or similar. I can't remember the exact language, but like similar qualifications. I mean, there was some speculation I saw that they're effectively calling for like militia members to join up with immigration enforcement, which would be a horrific escalation. Obviously, these are people with ultra right priors who are kind of, firearm fanatics, and you want these people brought into DC to, snatch people off the streets. It's
masked
horrific.
up with no badge or identity.
Right, no accountability.
We have no idea if right now how many of the people who have been kidnapped by ICE were kidnapped by militias.
Right.
There's no way we could possibly know this. So, I mean, if I go put on a mask, can I go to somewhere where Hispanics, Latinos are hanging out and just take one, and they won't do anything because they don't want to beat up a federal agent? It's just a wild world.
Well, we've apparently had incidents that I've seen people reporting on threads I'm on of people trying to do like petty crime with their face covered and wearing like a flak jacket of some kind around DC.
Horrible.
Resolution, because it's time that our party calls out the bullshit that is happening in Alligator.
I worry about the violence if they go into Chicago. And it's not a surprise to me they're not going into red states,
All those in favor of the amendment,
the essence of the MAGA movement and fascism in general is you slash the helping hand of government while expanding the slugging arm of government. Now, the Democrats should be reversing that. We want to cut the military. We want to cut all the money to these private detention corporations, and we want to expand the amount of money that we give in helping hand, housing, education, health care, environment. But the Democrats, when they were in power, including when they've had the trifecta of the House, the White House, and the Senate, they just haven't shrunk the slugging arm of government and expanded the helping hand of government.
Right.
So this is resolution 17 now that we're on.
18 is the big one on Gaza next. So
yeah, so coming right up. So here, kind of banner statement about support for diversity, equity, inclusion. I guess this is somewhat pointed because of the Trump administration's attacks on DEI, but there's so little text here. I'm not really sure what we're supposed to get from this.
This is the absolute shortest resolution. And Sam, we noticed before that on these long-winded resolutions, they're never showing us, therefore be it resolved.
Right.
They've only put on the screen all the preamble rhetoric, whereas.
Mm-hmm.
Because this one's so short, we can actually see what they're resolving, and it's not a hell of a lot. I mean, they're reaffirming support for DEI. That's fine.
Yeah. Let me just read the resolve section of the next resolution we're going to talk about in case we can't see that on the screen.
Yep.
And if it's not.
Oh, you're not going to be able to see it.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to have in mind, for folks to have in mind what the next resolution, the one about Gaza that Allison Minnerly wrote, is going to say. So the resolves are: the Democratic Party the DNC unequivocally condemns the ongoing famine and recognizes the immediate need to reopen the humanitarian corridor in Gaza. Further resolved, the party urges its elected members to support an immediate ceasefire, an arms embargo, and suspension of military aid to Israel. Further, the DNC directs its leadership to communicate this position clearly to all Democratic elected officials. The DNC urges its elected members of Congress to recognize Palestine as a country. The Democratic Party affirms its commitment to international law, human rights for all people, an immediate and continual supply delivery chain open for humanitarian focused life-saving food and medical care in Gaza, and pursuit of a just and lasting peace for all in the region. So it's very specific. It's, those are real policy points.
I have one question on that, Sam, before we get there.
Yeah.
The humanitarian corridor. That's the only word that shouted out to me as being like, well, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly? Mean that there's going to be one little specific area where we can maybe support not fighting, or just a pathway for aid, or what is that?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally that's been just the idea that the border crossings into Gaza are open for humanitarian aid to get in, which was, typical before the war began. But Israel has since blockaded those corridors, except when it allows aid in very sporadically. And so this has been a huge driver of the famine there.
Gotcha. Right. Well, that's a big resolution. That's a really big resolution for the Democrats. And I assume there'll be some debate and some.
There we go.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
Let's get on it.
Minnerly from Florida to make brief remarks. Allison.
Good morning to members of the committee. My name is Allison Minnerly, and I am a member from the state of Florida. This resolution is straightforward and enforceable. It calls for the end of supplying weapons and military aid as we see the war ongoing and raging in Gaza. 7% of Democrats support the party's current position in this conflict and in this crisis. In service to our voters, and as the body that is responsible for electing Democrats, we must signal clear and actionable items and solutions to our members that align us with our voters and achieve several things that were not outlined in resolution number 3. The co-sponsors of this resolution and myself will accept edits that strengthen the language urging for the release of the hostages, but we will not accept substitutes that dilute the intention of this resolution, which is to ensure that the Democratic Party will follow the will of our voters and call for an end to U.S. involvement in this particular tragedy. The resolution was drafted in consultation with Palestinians and many folks directly impacted by this ongoing humanitarian crisis. We are all members of a big tent, many of whom side without the 7% of the voters that we are seeing. Our party has a long-standing tradition of standing for human rights and international law. For voters watching at home, the chat is not active, the chat is disabled. But I will say this is a moment that calls for leadership, listening. We urge that beyond calling for a ceasefire, that we acknowledge the devastation, and we also outline actionable items for our elected officials within the Democratic Party to align ourselves with the voters of our base. Thank you.
Great job.
Allison. The chair will now entertain a motion to recommend this resolution for approval by the DNC. I didn't hear it. Let me say it again. The chair will entertain a motion to recommend this resolution for approval by the DNC. Is there a second? Any discussion?
Only 1 second.
Yes.
Hi, Stephanie Beal from Colorado. I would like to amend some of the language. I'm sending that amendment to Party Affairs right now.
Say it.
Okay, thank you.
Say it.
I think she has to read it. What's your motion?
Yeah, if you could read your amendment.
There you go.
Yeah, so on the be it further resolved, it's the after therefore, yeah, right there. Be it further resolved that the Democratic Party urges its elected members to support an immediate ceasefire. And then I've added in the return of all hostages. C would be an offensive arms embargo. And D, the suspension of offensive military aid to Israel. Furthermore, down where it says, be it further resolved, the Democratic National Committee urges its elected members of Congress, I've added in to affirm its commitment to a two-sided solution and recognition of Palestine as a country.
So this is very typical, this insertion of offensive
Okay, the amendments
To
are
water it down.
defensive.
being added right now.
But what we're shipping over there, it's 95% offensive. There's no way to characterize it. I mean, these are weakening amendments, but it still would be incredible if this passed. And
If this passed, even as amended, I agree. It would
Yeah,
be
even as amended, it would be good. I think the amendment allows for space for especially Republicans, but also weak Democrats to say, how is it offensive if we're returning missile fire? You know, it's a game with words here.
But if this stands with this language, particularly recognizing Palestine as a country, this would be a huge
That would be
change
huge.
for what's been standing
those the
Democratic Party
amendments?
policy.
Okay, an amendment has been proposed. Oh, she's still adding, okay.
Is the two-state solution stuff okay? Recognizing
empty
Palestine
rhetoric.
for sure,
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah,
There's
it's
no way around that.
it's not.
Okay,
You
an
know,
amendment has been proposed. Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded to amend the resolution.
Was it seconded?
Is there any discussion on the amendment? Oh, yes.
Well, DMFI does not support
Sorry,
this.
Madam Chair, point of order. I just wanted
APAC
to
does
point
not
out that it
support
says
this.
affirm its committee to a two-state
Let's see
solution,
if it
not
passes.
commitment.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Chair recognizes the delegate in the corner.
My name is Harini Krishnan again. I'm from California. I want to recognize the incredible number of calls and emails and that each of our committee members have received. And I want to acknowledge the deep pain and the grief and the sense of helplessness that must have moved so many of you to write these emails and make these calls. I also want to say that I truly hope that as a party, we can move beyond this issue. Our country is falling apart. We are literally, ISIS picking up people off the street. They're cutting Medicaid, Social Security. Lives are at stake. Gerrymandering is going on. There is so much work that we have to do collectively as a party. The way that this resolution is written, I think I would like to see the onus of a ceasefire, not only with the right-wing Israeli government, but also Hamas. And it does not mention that. And I would like to share that I think I see the pain of both sets of people. And I want to recognize that pain. I want to recognize that both sets of people have a right to dignity and a life free of violence. And I
There's
think
no dignity in murdering
I
children.
appreciate
And just because her voice
Chair
is
Martin
quivering and
has said
she's sad
in
doesn't
his
mean that
resolution that we just
that
passed,
matters.
Resolution 3.
This is, I believe,
I
this
want to
is
recognize
Harini
that, but I do
Krishnan
want
from
to say that this
California,
resolution does not,
who was seen as a
mentions
sympathetic.
the
Hold on one
right-wing
second.
Israeli government, but it does not put any onus on a militant group that I think is also is oppressing
Ryan?
the Palestinian.
Yeah, this is appalling because the U.S. is not arming Hamas.
Right.
The United States government is arming Israel. But I would love it if they would say, and there should be no U.S. arms going to Hamas.
Sure.
That would be a balance.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be equal.
Right.
But she's trying to defeat this based on that phony argument. But the U.S. is only arming one side.
Yeah,
And I was just going to point out,
both sides crocodile tears to me. I just can't with it.
this is an ominous sign for this resolution if Harini Krishnan is not in favor of it. She was seen as a potential yes vote, so not good if she's not in favor.
All right, let's hear what they're saying.
The shipping of defensive weapons to protect the people, the civilians, women, children, something that's truly important, and that needs to be maintained. And I'm glad that thank you for bringing that up. That's absolutely true, as stated in the resolutions by the 27 Democratic members. The resolution is to block offensive arms shipment to the Israeli government. So this would match what is being stated there. As a former boots on the ground soldier sitting in Baghdad, I have faced these type of incoming missiles and attacks, and this is very, very real. And this is not something that we should not give to the Israeli government in order to defend its peoples from these type of attacks.
Using the Iraq war is
Hamas,
great.
whether Hezbollah, whether from Iran. So I think that's absolutely important. The return of all hostages is absolutely crucial. This is all what we are trying to fight for. And I
But
don't think we should be
Ryan, they're not mentioning the release of thousands of Palestinians who are in custody without charge. There are far more of them.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Who was just speaking? Do we know?
I think he was from California as well, but I'm not sure.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I was going to move the previous question, but it sounds like we're going to be headed there anyway. So I'll be brief with some comments. I really appreciate where this is coming from and the direction that we're headed. Certainly, as the youngest person to ever serve as chair of my state party, this is an issue that I hear about all the time and that I know is very salient to young Democrats, and I've heard from them as well as I know many of you have. As was previously referenced, while I really appreciate where these amendments are going, to me, they don't quite get there. And I think that we do have in the third resolution, which we already adopted, something very strong that very clearly lays out exactly what our party's position is, affirming what's in our platform, building on that, and represents a real strong movement.
Committing to losing in 28.
On this, and a clear message about where we are on this. And to what a previous speaker said, it does that in a way that allows us to move on and talk about all of these other really, really salient issues. So, I'm going to oppose the amendments because while I do appreciate where they're going, to me, they don't quite get to where we need to be, and we already have a resolution in resolution number 3 that does that for me. So I'm going to be voting no on the amendments, even though
He's an APAC puppet.
Yeah, big time.
Thank you, Mr. Stoltz.
And let him
Any other
sue us
discussion
for
on the
saying that.
amendment?
Mm-hmm.
Seeing no further discussion, we will vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nays have it.
Nays big time.
Okay.
Well, they're going to have to count.
They better count.
The nays have it. The amendment is not adopted.
They didn't
We'll
even
now return
count?
to the resolution
No, didn't count.
originally submitted.
So having killed the amendments, there's no way this will pass.
No,
as
what an
originally
embarrassment. What an
We're
embarrassment.
Is there any further discussion
Disgusting party.
on this resolution?
You got bullied. You just got bullied.
Yes.
Hi, this is Corey Lemke from Democrats Abroad. I live in Seoul, South Korea, which is not too far from the DMZ. And this morning, President Trump was praising the dictator in North Korea. I believe that we as a party have the opportunity to be the party of a bold foreign policy. We Americans living abroad feel the effects of American foreign policy every day in our lives. And I think I want to speak in support of this amendment, or sorry, this resolution. So thank you for submitting. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate in the back.
Democrats abroad are always more progressive.
Yeah, they're good.
Or the leadership of Democrats abroad.
Good morning, Sophia Dannenberg from Washington. I was considering not making a statement on this one, but decided that not making a statement is a statement in itself. It's the silence of our friends. And I commend this committee for taking the first step and passing Resolution 3, but it's not enough. I think as we see even the families of the hostages protesting today, even their voices are not enough for this Netanyahu regime. And what we're hearing from the almost 5,000, I have a email filter if anyone wants to learn how to set it up so that you can at least count. I think it was up to something like 4,700 emails we've gotten, is that people want to hear a louder, stronger statement, and that this isn't the time for subtlety. And I do wish that the prior amendment had passed, the amendment had passed, because I do think that that is the intent, that we were together on October 7th at the DNC, and it was horrific. It was something that's unimaginable. I think we'll all remember where we were that day. And the Israeli people have a right to self-protection. They have a right to feel safe, and they are under threat in the region. And so
they're not.
Again, I really appreciated your amendment, and I feel it's unfortunate it didn't pass. But even without it, October 7th does not justify the actions of this right-wing regime, massacring and starving and slaughtering the Palestinian people.
Thank you. Boy, she's going to hurt her career by trying to prove.
So I think what's happening is you're hearing a lot of support from people who are present, who are not members of the committee, but who are present at the DNC meeting, whereas members of the committee itself are still mostly against this resolution.
Today, because I wanted to always remind myself to have
the people who care about raising the most money for the national level will not let this pass.
Let's hear what she's showing.
It says all human beings are born free, equal in dignity and rights. And as I was packing this, I actually started crying, and I'm about to do it now because I just thought about what's going on in the world, and I wonder if this is something that people really believe anymore. Is this really true? And we have to have courage. We are the strength of our country. It has to be more. And so I would urge you to support this resolution. Again, I think that the amendment would have improved it, and if you can find amendments to put in what to improve it, but I think we need to make a stronger statement. Thank you.
Powerful.
Thank you. And then
You did a great job.
delegate here and then there. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with what was just said, and I think that I believe very strongly that we've already made some real significant statements in the resolution that we have already forwarded, that was put forward by our DNC
This is APAC
chair,
speaking.
affirming and moving on what's already in our platform. We've had so much discussion on this already, and I'm so appreciative of the discussion that we have had. This is an issue worthy of our attention. I know that all of us have been hearing from folks who feel very strongly that it's an issue that we need to be paying attention to, and we've done that.
Yeah, this is Nathan Schultz again.
And again, we have a resolution that reflects that. We are standing up for what we believe as Democrats, what we believe in as a better world. Like the chair said when he introduced number 3, that oneness in life is oneness in life too many. and we have a strong resolution that represents that as our position as Democrats already.
He's
building
representing
on,
7% of
and affirming
Democrats
that
in the
that is what
country,
we
7.
believe.
What state
And
is
we
he
also
from?
have
You know?
accomplished
From
so
Washington,
much.
I
We
believe.
have such a
Where?
significant packet looking at these resolutions.
I think
We
Washington,
have either
maybe.
one after this, a number of commemorative
Washington.
resolutions that are talking about all the great
Oh, I'm sorry,
work
Oregon.
that we want to do as Democrats, calling out Republicans for what they've done, calling out the Trump administration for perpetuating this war from an ultranationalist right-wing government in Israel. We've talked about that and we've called that out, and we are moving on this issue. And it is imperative to us as Democrats that we do that. And I'm so proud that we've already forwarded resolution number 3 unanimously to the floor.
They're
It
totally
does
out of step with
there, and
their
I think that we've
base
had that
and with the
discussion. We've
youth
had a
of
really
this
good
country.
discussion on this
They
already,
can't
but I
understand
want
why
us
they
to
can't
complete
win
our business
elections
because
when
there's
the
so much important
genocide's
things to
going
do.
on.
So Madam Chair, I will move the previous question.
Well, if he stops this resolution, AIPAC's going to support his congressional run.
Okay. Hold on. All right.
Questions, seconds to that, yeah.
Yep, the question's been moved to close debate. I need a second. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, the debate has been closed.
Back to the main motion.
I would have opposed that resolution
Yes,
to
we're going
close
back
the
to the main
debate.
motion.
Me too.
Let's see. Okay.
They just
So we'll
won't
now
attack
vote
each other first.
on
and then I think that they
recommending
should.
adoption of the resolution as printed. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay.
Disgusting.
Pathetic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Disgusting party.
One abstention.
Disgusting party.
Abstention, please.
Can you state your names for the record?
Deborah Cunningham, Skarnet, California.
Samuel Rocha, Santiago, Florida.
Ada Briseño from California.
Harini Krishnan, California.
Aldo Lee,
I just
California.
I need to go on record. I have a proxy. My chairman is voting in favor of the resolution.
Thank you. The motion fails.
This is the only motion
We
that's
will now
failed.
proceed to the next resolution.
It's the first motion that even had a nay. It's the first.
Yeah, first not passed
Amendment
effectively
that-
with unanimous consent.
It's just such an embarrassment as a part. This is why the Democrats will lose in 20. They might win in 26 on dumb luck, but there's no chance. I mean, this party is dead. There's absolutely no foundation. There's no morality. There's nothing there. What is the foundation of the Democrats besides whatever their donors at the time say? It drives me nuts. It's driving me nuts.
The whole country, even if you watch mainstream television news, you're seeing pictures of kids that are skeletal. There's nothing but bones. And you have the Democratic Party unwilling to stand against it.
Well, they couldn't stand against. They have never stood against war in 20 years now. That's so disappointing.
With this ICE crisis that mirrors,
Condemning ICE abuses.
times than the times of.
Can we, maybe Sam, can you see what the be it resolved? Are they talking about cutting the funds of ICE? At least drastically, what are they resolving? Or is this another one of their empty resolutions?
Yeah, let's take a look.
We saw folks in June and July. There was a study from UC Merced that showed that.
So this is
3.2%
more substantive if you just want to, the resolutions here include, they're condemning ISIS tactics, of course. They're standing in solidarity with families, but they're also urging the passage of the Visible Act. That's Alex Padilla's act that says that ICE agents can't wear masks and some other things that they do to obscure their identities. And they're also saying that they support another piece of legislation that would provide a pathway to citizenship, or I'm sorry, permanent residency, not citizenship, for people who are currently here undocumented. But there's no talk of disassembling ICE. It's, again, it's kind of a middle ground. It's not really a strong attack on ICE.
And there's not even that the ICE budget is too high?
No real discussion of the ICE budget.
It's horrible. The three ICE bills that Roots Action Progressive Hub are largely behind be the Visible Act from Alex Padilla, the No Masks for ICE Act, which is in the House version of that from Velasquez, and then the No Secret Police Act, which by Dan Goldman and Adriana Espialat closes the loophole that allows federal agencies to act as secret police.
Yeah. And this is our last substantive resolution. After this, they go on to sort of honoring the lives of various prominent Democrats who have died.
Yeah, we'll do after this one. We'll see how this goes, and then we'll wrap it up and do a kind of a post resolutions meeting.
Proceedings. Also, we see National Guard. This is extending to unidentified vigilantes, and just the terror and also the economic devastation to our workforce and to.
The order of these things was really interesting too. You started off with mass agreements, and then you stick this thing at 18. You stick Gaza, where there's going to be fight, and then you're going to end it on ICE, where everyone's going to agree again and leave happy.
And you notice also how crucial it was to argument against that last resolution to be able to appeal back to the passage of Resolution 3 and say,
exactly, which was
almost make it seem like it's redundant. Like this committee has already passed a resolution that says
we already said what our stance.
Yeah,
How
exactly.
can we agree on two things?
It was a very classic tactic, and it, I think it worked rhetorically at least.
Well, I just think the DNC members just needed someone to say something that gave them the pass to not support.
They're doing this.
And then you give everyone the pass now because it won't go to the general DNC now.
But what's fascinating is, the party calls itself the Democratic Party, and this process was so undemocratic that these young people came forward with the resolution that called for an arms embargo. That's the only reason that Ken Martin came up with his counter resolution, and the counter resolution gets voted on first. It's resolution number 3. It's so undemocratic what they've done.
Well, and the layers of democracy you're hiding it behind. It's not the American people voting an election. It's not the party voting. It's not the leaders of the party voting. It's a couple subcommittee members down here that you don't know. You will never know their name. You will never know who voted what. But now that this issue that 93% of Democrats agree with is dead, it's unbelievable.
I assume within the credentials, within the resolutions committee, could someone have raised their hand and said, I'd like a voice vote, I'd like a count of who's voting which way? Or is it always just ayes and nays? That can't be right. If it's close, like if the ayes are as loud as the nays, they would have had to do a count.
Yeah. And even if they aren't, someone can still call for division to mark who voted which way. I mean, that's part of the approach here, right? Is to make sure that no individual person is on the record, except for those abstentions, which apparently do have to be filed by the individual.
And what's the point of those abstentions? Those people who are just like, I have no backbone, or like.
Well, you'll note that the one of the abstentions I noticed was the woman who spoke kind of tearfully about how the effect it's had on the party. So I think someone who genuinely didn't feel like she knew where to come down, and I think that says.
Well, I think she was saying with the amendments, she would have supported it.
Yeah,
I think she might have voted aye on the first reading, and then after the weakening amendments were taken out, she just abstained. But am I right, Sam, that there probably would have been no mention of Gaza if not for the young Democrats who put the good resolution on? There wouldn't have been a resolution number 3. Am I right?
Yeah, Resolution 3 was written completely in reaction to the introduction of Resolution 18. So there would have been no discussion at all at this meeting, at the Resolutions Committee meeting, of what's probably the biggest ongoing geopolitical conflict. I mean, even if you back up from its implications for the Democratic Party and for fundraising within the Democratic Party and AIPAC and DMFI and primaries, this is still the critical geopolitical question right now. Is
Right.
the resolution of this conflict, how it will be resolved. And this is a party having no opinion on that. I mean, it's kind of remarkable when you think about it.
It's an
I wanna-
extension.
Sorry,
It's
go ahead.
It's an extension of what we saw at the 2024 Democratic Convention, where they wouldn't even let a Palestinian woman speak.
Yes.
And her short speech had already been vetted by the party establishment. This is utterly, totally a continuation of that. And they don't understand why young people are so turned off by this party that calls itself the Democratic Party.
Of calls and emails that I've gotten from, as an AE, NHPI organizer, from people who are truly traumatized. It is.
When you say the biggest geopolitical or military
the election
in the world, and certainly the one that the U.S. has got its hand in 100%. This reminds me of the Vietnam War, except the Democratic leadership in some ways is even worse. That, we're a couple years into a genocide. Vietnam was a genocide, and it went on year after year, but we didn't see it on television. The myth is that it was the televised war, Vietnam. It wasn't. It was a censored war. Every academic study has shown that. But this, we're getting the images even on ABC, CBS, NBC News. They were skeletal. They looked like Jews that had survived the death camps and were liberated by U.S. or Soviet soldiers.
Looked like the old Civil War photos I saw in elementary school. That used to scare me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these are horrifying images. And the Democratic Party, because communications is so much faster now, it's almost like we're in the 15th. If you compare it to Vietnam, this is almost years 1973. And the Democratic leadership today is still on the side of war. By 1973, the Democratic Party leadership on Vietnam was anti-war.
Yeah.
So this is sickening to see it go on for so long, and they can't take a position against the genocide that the U.S. is responsible for.
Question, Jeff. In 1973, was there an American Vietnamese Political Action Committee that supported all the pro-war, pro-Vietnam War?
All of the, what used to be called the China lobby or the Vietnam lobby, they were so discredited by, 1969, 70. If you wanted to be a leader of the Democratic Party, you had to come out against the war. But here we are with Gaza, and they can't come out against the massacre and the genocide and the killing of children.
It's really embarrassing. It's the corporate money. It's the threats from AIPAC.
Well, AIPAC has to be understood as perhaps the most powerful lobby today and the most powerful lobby in the history of the country.
Well, there's actually a really good.
Most lobbies only control one party.
Right.
Like the NRA is the Republican Party. The trial lawyers were in the Democratic Party. But AIPAC, through the Christian Zionists in the Republicans, AIPAC has, as we've seen today, almost total control of the leaderships of both parties. And that's really something when a lobby can say that.
When what's crazy is, you don't got to go but 3 or 4 years ago for the Democrats to say that the NRA is destroying democracy. They're buying all these elections. The amount of money they spent was around $120 million. That's the same amount of money that AIPAC spends, but there's nothing from the Democrats about that. There's no money angle there. For the NRA, it was all about them buying elections. AIPAC spends more than the NRA did at its peak, and there's no question about its ability to spend money.
Looks like we're wrapping up here.
Yeah.
Ken Martin kind of giving a closing remarks
let's
here.
Listen to Mr. Martin
today and have the conversation.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm going to pull it back 10 seconds to hear what he said.
To work through this and bring solutions back to our party. And so with that, I would ask this committee to withdraw my resolution so we can move forward united today and have the conversation.
He's withdrawing his resolution 3 now?
I'm not sure which one. Can we back up a bit more?
No. Resolution 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
The chairman has requested to withdraw Resolution 3. Is there a motion to grant this request? Is there a second? Okay, we will move to a vote. All those in favor of permitting the withdrawal, say aye.
This is insane.
All opposed, say nay.
Insane.
Motion carries.
And that carried unanimously. So now the party is back to having no position on
No
this
position
whatsoever.
on Gaza. Every single person here should quit or be fired or
21
go home.
commemorative resolutions which were sent out to DNC members in the secretary's 14-day
Okay, so these
mailing.
commemorative resolutions are kind of.
All right.
This isn't an inside baseball bridge I won't even cross. So
Was anyone expecting that to happen? It's
that
like,
was surprising.
That was
we've been arguing that if it wasn't for Allison Minnerly, the 26-year-old from Florida, they wouldn't have had one word about Gaza. And that's how we ended up. Not one word about Gaza.
Right.
Ken Martin's got to go. He's terrible. He's terrible.
I think that speaks volumes that the party would rather not say anything about this issue than have the sort of even the appearance that there's dissension in the ranks. You know, they'd rather just sort of blot it out from the record. Yeah, we had a great meeting and everything passed unanimously, except for a few things that aren't even reflected anymore.
Well, I mean, what's crazy is they're looking ahead mostly to, 26 next, these congressional races. They think having a stance on Gaza will hurt them in 26 and 28. So they expect this war not only to continue, but to gain support up until then. I mean, it's psychotic. That is a psychotic thought.
This is a replay of 20 years ago in 2006. And the Democrats had no clue how the country, the working people and middle-class people had turned against the war in Iraq. And so Rahm Emanuel was the head of the Congressional Campaign Committee for the Democrats. And he went out and made sure he recruited candidates that were not opposed to the invasion of or the continuing war in Iraq. And then when so it was a complete misplay of public opinion. And when the results came in from the exit polls in November 2006, many people said, well, yeah, I was upset about the ongoing war in Iraq. And the Democrats would have done better in 2006 if they had an actual anti-war position. And we know that Rahm Emanuel weakened the Democratic win in 2006 because he wouldn't allow an anti-war position when the masses of the people were anti-war. Well,
didn't he want to run on against the Iraq war again? Instead of ending the war, he wanted to run on ending the war?
He wanted to have the war continue.
Yeah.
So it might be an issue for them in 2008.
Right.
But again, it was completely immoral. It was also politically stupid. And now they're being politically stupid. Put aside morality and all the starving, dying people, the journalists being killed in Gaza. This is politically stupid.
It's very stupid. I want to point out, before you were on, Jeff, I was talking to Sam in India and mentioned this Corbin Trent article. He worked with Bernie about how the more leftish wing of the Democratic Party has way more money than AIPAC, but no real ability to organize it. They're sitting on, $300 million is their cycle fundraising ability between, who is it? Bernie, AOC, the Squad, Elizabeth Warren, these kind of folks, right? They're making way more money than AIPAC has, and probably more than the DNC, really. But so long as the DNC is unable to step away from their corporate donors or AIPAC or their foreign policy leaders, that money is never going to be organized. It's never going to work together. It's never going to be shared. But there is money. It's just no one is going to give money to these people besides other rich elite Dem donors who are kind of in the circles and benefit from it. Regular people are not going to donate to this. This is terrible.
Yeah, they've gone further in making themselves a party of the elite, party of AIPAC by what they've just done here. It's somewhat, it's really surprising. He withdrew Resolution 3. Can either of you two have an explanation of why he thought that was a good idea?
I think it's fundraising. I think by not having a stance on Gaza at all, Republicans can never come back and be like, well, the party says they hate the Jew. You know how it is, right?
But
so
the Resolution 3 was written by DMFI, and it was just boilerplate, you know, to the degree that anything was blamed, it was the Netanyahu, but otherwise, you know, standing with AIPAC in Israel. Why would they, after having put that as a counter resolution, why would he withdraw it? It's insane.
I think there are two options, and I'm not sure which one I think is the right one. But the first, I think, the more cynical read is sort of what Ryan's saying, that, you know, Resolution 3 was, the point of that resolution was to blunt 18 so everyone could say we already passed this. And so now that 18 has failed, there's no need for 3, so they can completely blot it out, you know, and it's like nothing ever happened.
Right.
It served its utility. But I think I'm less persuaded by that. I think the other option is probably that Ken Martin is still kind of struggling to figure out how he wants to deal with dissension within the DNC. I think he thinks of himself as a reformer. He thinks of himself as someone, I mean, genuinely, who is going to take the party in a more progressive direction, is going to be more inclusive of the big tent, wants to listen to voices. This is how he sees himself, not how I see him or how any of us do. And I think he thought, well, maybe this is a gesture that I can make to that wing of the party to say, look, you know, we had a hard-fought battle and we won, but you're still in the tent. I don't want to alienate you, and so I'll withdraw my take since your take has failed. And I think that might just be the explanation, that he thought that this would curry some good favor within the party for him, especially since now the fallout has been mitigated. You know, the fundraising thorns are sort of trimmed here. They don't have to worry about what this means for the donors, and they can go back to the donor class and say, we dealt with that. You know, he's sort of extending an olive branch. But either way, it's a completely bizarre thing to do.
I think you're actually right on that, Sam, but it's clear that he's not talking to or speaking to voters by pulling that resolution. He's speaking directly to the DNC members he disagrees with, saying, look, yeah, we're good. I think that actually is the right take.
And what they're basically saying is, we don't have a position on Gaza. I mean, keep in mind that they could politically imagine a resolution, whereas Donald Trump has talked about turning Gaza into a resort and evicting the people, whereas Donald Trump has said to Netanyahu, I want you to finish the job. You know, there's so many ways to win voters to a position against Trump, you know, putting aside how bad Biden was on Gaza, but just what Trump's done in the last 6 months, they're not even on record denouncing that.
No, I think it's a party that is largely controlled by where they get funded from, which is big.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I agree with Corbin Trent. I mean, the beauty, what AOC and Bernie have shown is, if you stand with principles and you stand for uplifting the working class and the struggling middle class and the poor, you can get all sorts of donations,
right,
from small dollar donations from working people and middle class people. Remember, Bernie, I think most of the biggest single employer might have been Walmart. He was getting all these Walmart employees that were donating because he was an advocate for Walmart workers. And so AOC and Bernie and a few others have shown you don't need corporate money. You don't need Apex money as
Right.
long as you have a principled agenda of uplifting the public, uplifting young people, uplifting the poor, uplifting marginalized groups. You can get donations by the millions and millions of dollars. But obviously, Ken Martin is trying to serve those politicians like Jeffries, Pelosi, Schumer. They can only get corporate donations because that's who they serve, and they don't inspire anyone beyond those elite groups.
Right. I think the DNC, I agree. I think the DNC, though, serves a purpose that like Bernie's money doesn't, it can't do, which is to organize that money nationally. So if all those progressives with all that money built a DNC competitor, obviously the party would collapse because they would never allow that. But the problem is that the money's not being organized effectively, I think. And the DNC will never have enough of it to organize effectively because it's all corporate money and they don't appeal to the people who would allow them to have $300 million a cycle, you know? It's just tough to find a way for them to claw out as long as the corporate donors and AIPAC still rules the party.
Zoran Mamdani is another example of a fundraising machine because he stood for something. He built a grassroots and he was breaking the records in fundraising. And with the matching funds, no one got to matching funds as fast as Zoran did.
Yeah, big shout out to the probably local New York organizers who got the matching fund system into New York, which clearly works and is effective and allows candidates to focus on voters rather than dialing for dollars.
Yeah. And ranked choice voting reform also helped.
Yeah, exactly. But now we'll have a Byron Brown Buffalo situation where Cuomo is going to be backed by the Republicans and the Democrats. When is that? When is that election?
It's in November. Unfortunately,
it's already November. Okay.
They have 3 of New York's top malignant narcissists running all in opposition to Zoran, and I think that they're going to somewhat cancel each other out. You know, in a field of normal people, which they would consolidate, but good luck getting Eric Adams or Andrew Cuomo or Curtis Sliwa to drop out of that election.
And Eric Adams just had staffers arrested for bribing journalists with $100 bills.
And this should be, I mean, this really underlines what a struggle this party has had to align itself with its base and the completely perverse incentive structure. The fact that someone like Hakeem Jeffries or even Chuck Schumer, who are leaders of the national party, can't look at someone like Zoran Mamdani, who won a convincing victory in a primary, who's young, charismatic, great at social media, a huge grassroots following, on paper sort of your dream candidate, the kind of person who party leaders. He's handsome, he's great in front of the camera. They should be salivating over him instead of trying to throw him to the margins. And instead they'd like to sort of tacitly promote Andrew Cuomo, a known sex pest with a nursing home death scandal hanging over his head, or Eric Adams, who cannot stop having AIDS, be arrested and indicted for bribery charges. I mean, it's
I want to speak up for the 4th candidate. Curtis Sliwa and I hosted a television show on MSNBC every Friday throughout the summer of 2002. He's better than the other 2 candidates. He's better than the 2 former Democrats, Cuomo and Adams. Wow. In fact, I mean, I know Curtis pretty well, and he's sort of a populist on some economic issues. So he's calling for things that I wish Mamdani would embrace. Like I've heard him do interviews on television in New York area where he says, NYU, Columbia, they're 2 of the biggest landlords in the city. And so much of what they own, it's not for educational purposes. We should tax them. And then he goes, Madison Square Garden, the Dolan family. Why are they getting all these giveaways? We should be raising. I mean, those are popular positions. And I saw something 2 days ago where Sliwa, they think that Trump's going to offer him a job in Washington. You know, he's a New Yorker. He loves New York. But, you know, if the job is good enough, I mean, that's what they're trying to do to get Curtis out of the race.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 40 some adopted cats living in his apartment with him and his wife, and I don't think he's going to want to move out of New York, as you say, Jeff. And being an animal lover is a better thing than we can say about the other two candidates. So
yeah, can they offer him like a federal job where he could stay in New York City to do the federal job?
They're going to offer him dog catcher job. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I do want to point out though I keep saying psychotic, insane. It's just so mind blowing to try to give a New York City journalist $100 as what are they going to get lunch with it? You're one of the most expensive cities in the world. You're obviously going to get $100. That's just wild.
Yeah, this is the kind of
it was Dr. Evil. When he,
$1 billion.
Right.
I think at first he asked for $1 million ransom.
It's very, the whole Adams administration has just been, they'll take all comers. Any level of corruption is okay with them, from the very high to the very low. And the idea that the Democrats would not be eager to get someone like this, who's a good friend to Trump, just out of public office, out of the party, and get someone like Zoran in instead is just mind-boggling. But this is reflective of the way the party thinks about these things. They're no longer operating at the level of the individual candidate. It's much more about the donor structure behind those candidates and who's in charge of the money flows, more so than I think it's ever been for the party. And I think that the war in Gaza has accelerated that paranoia that Democrats at the high levels have about where money is coming from and making sure that they're keeping all their funding streams open. The last thing I want to say about that real quick is I just want to emphasize this point again. I said at the head of this, but the Democrats, the DNC is in a huge budgetary crunch. And when they're thinking about money, they're not thinking about the kind of money we think about when we think about the candidates we want to fund. We have a candidate who's running here in DC for city council. She hit the matching goal the first day after her campaign was announced, and she's going to be great. She's going to win. She's going to be a socialist on the city council here in DC. That's what we think about. We were asking people to give $50 if you can swing it and you can give $50. That's the maximum for public matching funds. The DNC is thinking about people who are going to give millions of dollars. Yep. And so that's why they are so fixated on this issue, that if you just polled the majority of Democratic voters, it would be a resolved issue. There's no question about this among the massive Democrats. We all know where the massive Democrats stand, but it has to do with those huge $1 million donations.
I agree. That's why George Clooney going against Biden was really the straw.
Right, that freaked them out more than anything.
For the Democrats, that was like, the opposite of Christmas.
Let's compare.
One thing real quick on Eric Adams. Eric Adams was in a lot of ways a response to defund the police, right? And the Democrats' inability to harness that message and to translate it to normal people, to normal voters, to make it not just an obviously good idea, but something that made sense and was logical to them, they didn't do. And then you get Eric Adams directly as a result of that. If defund the police, if the party would have taken that, massaged it a little, made it a little more consumable to people, we probably don't end up with Eric, a police officer Democrat destroying New York.
Defund the police is the wrong jargon.
Agree.
Phrase.
If the party could have and actually, instead of just attacking their own activists and making attacking that the thing, if they would have done something else, we don't.
Of course, I mean the public safety agenda of Zoran Mamdani is what people wanted years ago. It's not well described by defund the police.
Right.
It's better described by let's have other aspects of public safety involving social workers, mental health experts. Let's quit sending cops out with guns to deal with these problems of public safety. That's a winning position. And Zoran's been his public safety position is popular. I
translated it. I think a much stronger version of defund the police that gets to where we all want is to empower dispatchers. Give the dispatchers more options. They have 3 buttons right now: guns, fire, medical. Give them 2 more buttons. And that's what defund the police means.
Yeah. And that's what Zoran's been saying as he's been able to explain it. I just want to get back to this issue of genocide.
Yeah.
Because if you're a humanist, if you're young, if you're idealistic, you can't believe what the US government is doing there. And when I think back, that was the same feeling that I had when I was a teenager during Vietnam. But in 1967 and 68, it was a Democratic president, Johnson. And you had these brave senators, Gene McCarthy and then Bobby Kennedy. They were coming out against their own president of their own party. But then Nixon won. And by January 69, after Nixon won, almost every leading Democrat said this war's got to end. But here we are with Trump 6 months in power, and the DNC still can't oppose the war in Gaza, the genocide that's going on. And it's a president of another party saying crazy things like he's going to evict the people and build a resort. And he's going to let Netanyahu, quote, finish the job.
Terrible.
Which is talking about a genocidal comment. And they can't even stand up for the people of Gaza when the other party is in power. This is sickening. And I would say it's worse. The Democrats are worse now than when the genocide was going on in Vietnam that the U.S. was responsible for. And I think we've put our finger on it. The difference is the lobby. Yeah. That in 69, when Nixon's the president, there just wasn't a huge lobby that would get Democratic senators, Congress members to say, oh, I can't speak out on Vietnam. But there is today this Israel right or wrong, Israel can do no wrong lobby that has such sway over Ken Martin and more directly over Jeffries, Pelosi, Schumer.
We're going to get out of here in about a minute and be done until tomorrow. We'll be back at noon Eastern time tomorrow to continue our coverage of the DNC. Golly, not a lot got done today. What can we expect tomorrow? Sam, do you have any idea?
Yeah, tomorrow's a more general meeting. So I think we'll hear more tomorrow about sort of like the systems and the processes that Ken Martin is wanting to implement. There's going to be talk probably of a 50-state strategy, new amounts of money that are available for new initiatives. A lot of this stuff is going to be cheerleading tomorrow. I think that today was probably our day for like substantive policy talk, but tomorrow we're going to see more. It's such as it was. I mean, that's what you get in these meetings. And like, I think tomorrow you're going to see a lot more discussion of how the Democrats are planning to win in every state and at every level, that sort of thing. But it will tell us a lot about what the DNC is going to try to do in this kind of like scarcity austerity moment that it's in. And I think we'll hear a lot about fundraising also, because that is going to be the specter that haunts this whole meeting, is that the RNC has almost 6 times more money on hand right now than the DNC does. It's one of the largest ever recorded gulfs between the two committees. So this is going to be a huge problem for Ken Martin, and we're going to hear about it a lot tomorrow.
The Democrats don't know how to spend money. They just know how to give consultants large piles of it.
Did the resolutions that passed today in the resolutions committee, did they come up before the full Democratic National Committee?
So
is that possibly an explanation for why Ken Martin wanted to withdraw Resolution 3, that maybe he didn't want anyone to dissent when Resolution 3 came forward?
Yeah, that's possible. So what will happen, our understanding is that the Resolutions Committee will make a presentation of the package of resolutions, and then there will be what's sure to be like a pro forma vote to adopt those resolutions by the full body. I don't know what the space for discussion is, but certainly, as you're saying, Jeff, if those 2 resolutions aren't in there, you would really have to force the issue, and maybe even could be procedurally blocked from talking about those resolutions if they're not in the packet. So we'll get a packet of everything that we saw passed today, which is everything except for those 2 resolutions. One passed but was withdrawn. and it will probably just be a rubber stamp from the rest of the assembled committee members.
Yeah, it'll be a rubber stamp day tomorrow. I do want to say, Jeff, I forgot what I was going to respond to you with. You mentioned the senators who stood up to the Vietnam War before Nixon was elected, and then the rest of the party came with it. You mentioned Bobby Kennedy. Bernie Sanders has been a disappointment on Gaza. He's been okay about things, but I think right now the Democrats lack a true visionary elected leader to lead, to vociferously shout top of his lungs against the genocide.
Yeah, I don't always agree with Bernie's rhetoric about Israel Palestine, but his resolution, his legislative agenda has been on point. The main thing that you do in the U.S. is you stop the guns. That was it during Vietnam, also in the late 60s, early 70s. Stop the weapons from going there. Stop the soldiers from going there. So, well, I mean, I think Bernie's been semi-strong. The rhetoric isn't always what I would want 100%. It's
my concern is that
but at least
bills don't go viral. Just what he says goes viral.
Yeah,
the bills,
because he's got the right, because the legislative agenda is right, which is stop the weapons.
Yeah.
And, you know, and he uses that tactic where it, what's it called, where it has to get a vote, a favored resolution or something.
Yeah, so the joint resolution of disapproval was Bernie's resolution. And when you saw in Allison Minnerly's resolution that we saw today, the invocation of those 27 senators who voted for it, that was what they were talking about, was Bernie's JRD. So there is a way that, like, these things can build on each other, and I think Bernie's right to do that. And it also gets senators on record. But, you know, it was, yeah, I think a lot of us who were Bernie supporters were disappointed with how long it took him to get to this place. I agree with Jeff, though, for the most part, that I think he's been legislatively pretty good since he sort of got in gear on this, but it took him a while to get there.
Yeah, I want to see more just loud, just really intense speeches and just viral videos about it would be nice. We do have a question from PDA West Virginia, our friends in PDA. What will the next steps on the resolution? What will the next steps be on this resolution on Gaza? Either of them, after assigning a task force, would the issue be resolved at this meeting? It's already done. They had two of them. Number, what was it, 3 passed initially, which was a very soft, free the hostages type of thing. And then resolution 18 was shot down because it had a little bit of empathy for Palestinians. And then 5 minutes later, the resolution portion ended, and Ken Martin withdrew resolution 3, which was the really soft resolution about Gaza that did basically nothing. So now we end the resolution committee going into the full DNC with absolutely no comment on Gaza coming from the Democrats. So it's over for this. The Democrats are doing nothing about Gaza. Is that an answer to that question, Sam? Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds right to me. And I mean, I would just say also, like, assigning a task force is a known graveyard of policies, so probably not what we would have wanted out of this anyway. But yeah, I think the issue's dead for now.
But I mean, the skullduggery of having a counter resolution, it passes the resolution that actually has teeth that would take away, stop weapons flow to the genocide. That's voted down. And when it's voted down, they withdraw. I mean, it reminds me of what the DNC did on behalf of Biden when they were reordering the, the order of the Democratic primaries.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's so transparent what they do, and it's so undemocratic what they do. And thankfully we had a live stream so we could witness it.
When Sam predicted it before the stream even started, the point of resolution 3 was so that you don't have to support resolution 18. But then the irony of using resolution 3 to shoot down resolution 18 and then immediately getting rid of it, it's just, I mean, they're playing tricks on us.
Well, I mean, remember Biden, the reason they had to reorder the primaries, it was the same kind of thing. They knew that Biden couldn't do well in New Hampshire in 2024 seeking re-election.
Yeah.
I mean, back in 2020, he came in 5th. He got 8% of the vote. So in the name of diversity, they move it. They make the first primary South Carolina, where there's almost no Democratic Party so weak, run by Clyburn. And if they really cared about diversity, and New Hampshire's not a very diverse state, you would have made the first primary something like Georgia, which is far more diverse, actually has a labor movement. South Carolina has less workers in unions percentage-wise than any state in the union.
And for a party so concerned about money, why don't we start by lighting $1 million on fire in South Carolina? Because it will not matter in the general.
Yeah.
Right. You generally want your first swing state, your first primary states to be swing states where the Democratic word gets out and it helps you win in November.
Maximize
South Carolina
time.
was just,
Yeah.
But I mean, it's so transparent what was done then. And this is so transparent. How can a party not have a position on Gaza? The Republicans have a position. It's let him finish, let Netanyahu finish the genocidal job. The Democrats have no position on an ongoing genocide where the U.S. government is the main supplier of the weapons.
Is the tent too big?
I think the question is more like, whose tent is it?
Or is the tent too high because we shouldn't have so many skyscrapers in it? Like, yeah, what is wrong with the tent?
Well, if the tent does not start excluding the power of big money and AIPAC and all these insidious forces that are actually Republican allies, if they can't exclude them from the tent, then we don't have an opposition party in our country.
Yeah, I think that's the point that a lot of us have been making over and over again, who have been working on this, since before October 7th and certainly after it, is that these people are not friends of even the moderate wing of the Democratic Party. These are right-wing donors who are filtering money through AIPAC and DMFI to supply the campaigns of the most moderate, the most corporatist Democrats, and that those donations should be rejected out of hand by the Democratic Party. It's the opposition's money, but that message is not broken through to kind of the mainstream yet. We hope it does soon.
Yeah, Ryan Grimm's book on the Squad points out how close these forces that are funding corporatist candidates against progressive candidates within Democratic primaries, that it's not just that they care about Israel and protecting Israel 100% and Israel's goals and expansionism. It's that these are often the crypto people, or they're the high-tech people that don't want any regulations and want their corporate taxes. They've got all these motives, none of which should be inside the Democratic Party tent, a big, medium, or small.
Spending a lot of time in rural Indiana, I find that the Christians here don't know a lot about what's going on in Gaza, and they don't want to know a lot about what's going on in Gaza, but they generally support Israel for religious reasons.
Yeah.
For the red heifers and the end of the world. And
because they want the world to end.
They want the world. They want us all to die.
Yeah. Let's keep that in mind. Because
casually, they don't want.
But see, I understand why the right wing should be embracing Israel. What's sickening is that the Democratic Party leadership cannot stop its embrace. That's the sickening aspect.
Right.
We've gotten to a point where the Republicans are like the strong capitalist imperialist party, and the Democrats are the weak capitalist and imperialist. But it's the same politics, just like a little drawn back. Okay, well, we've been on for 3 hours and 16 minutes. Had a good morning with you, Sam. Thank you so much for joining us, Jeff. We will be back tomorrow at noon. Probably not for 3 hours because they probably won't talk about much. We'll just get mad at them telling each other how much they love each other, and that'll be a good time. So thank you all, and we will do this again tomorrow.
So long.